I started my Heaven Officials Blessing journey on May 16th of 2022. And as I'm recording this, it is January 28th of 2024. So I have been with Heaven Officials Blessing for almost 2 years. Like a year and 3/4. Yeah. Isn't that weird? And then I started the novel series in August, I think August 8th of 2022. So yeah, it's been like a year and a half of reading Heaven Officials Blessing. And I'm going to miss saying Heaven Officials Blessing. All sing-songy like that. I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss it. But yeah, we're on the final chapter, 252 of our series. Be Happy, one of our gracious moderator, Be Happy, who has moderated Heaven Officials Blessing at least for the last half a year, I believe, sent me this hoodie as a belated Christmas gift, and I want to wear it like for any of the other audio drama reactions I do for Heaven Officials Blessing. I want to do that. I want to wear this like whenever any other Heaven Officials Blessing content comes, if permitted. And like if it's dirty and in the laundry, I'm gonna have to wash it. But I may even wear it for some of the Scum Villain reactions when I get to them. As long as it's not too hot, because this thing is cozy. This thing, I feel like it feels like a Hualian hug is what this feels like right now. So I'm like, but yeah, we're on the last chapter of the book. I also have this little stack of goodies from the special edition that I've not touched in like a month. They've just sat over on my shelf, just waiting to be looked at. So we've got that. I've got some comments to talk about. And as far as what else on this channel that I want to do before we start Scum Villain, there are 5 audio drama episodes. One episode I've technically already watched, and so I'm just going to review that. But then there's 2, 3, 4, and 5. There's 4 audio drama episodes and a couple extras that I've not gotten to. If I am able to before March, you guys have probably seen posts about internet and stuff like that going on. If I'm able to before March, I would like to get some of those out of the way and watch them before starting Scum Villain. Hopefully in March, starting that series and then going from there. With Scum Villain, I am starting out with the Donghua. Please don't argue with me. Please don't try to be like, but you need to start with the novel. I started Modao Zushi with the Donghua. I started Heaven Officials Blessing with the Donghua. It wouldn't be fair to the eldest sibling unless I started with Dongwon. I know it's CGI. I watched Reboot when I was a kid. The CGI is not going to affect me. I'm like, it's fine. And then it's only 1 season, so as soon as that season's over, I will start with the Scum Villain books, and I have all of them waiting on the shelf for me, so I'm super excited about that, right? And there's not really a lot of Scum Villain content out there, sadly, except for the Donghua and the novel, so that will just be encompassing. And then if more Heaven Officials Blessing things come available while I am watching and reading Scum Villain, then we will cross that bridge when we get to it. But that's my goal anyway. But yeah, the last chapter. First of all, thank you all for joining me on this journey. I hope you join me on my other Don Mai adventures. I hope you join me for Scum Villain, because that's going to be a fun time. And then after Scum Villain, it'll just be polling Patreon to see which Don Mai I read next. But even when MXTX Mondays are over, Don Mai Mondays will hopefully be here for quite some time. So I'm really excited about that. But I hope you join me on my Scum Villain journey, and stay tuned for any other Heaven Officials Blessing content that I have. But thank you for joining me and being with me for this. It's such a treat to get to read your comments, to talk with y'all in the Discord, to share the fan art. I have a feeling that the fan art and stuff on the Discord is not going to slow down anytime soon. No. And so that'll be fun as well. But thank you all so much. Thank you, Be Happy, for moderating. You saved me so much stress not having to worry about spoilers, and it made this journey so wonderful. We were talking about this in the Donghua episodes, but just the concept of getting to experience some of the reveals in the novel, like with Junwoo, with Bai Wuxiang, with the name, like all the stuff getting revealed, it has made this one of my favorite stories I've read in a very, very long time. And I like Modao Zushi, don't get me wrong. I love Modao Zushi. Wang Shin, going back and redoing and finishing the manhwa reminded me how much I love Modao Zushi. I love that story to pieces, and I love the romance of Modao Zushi to pieces. But there's something special about this story, and maybe it's because I've spent nearly 2 years reading it, but it's special. So as far as the comments go, we'll bring Whiteboard Kun out here, I'm sure, to tackle the remaining questions of MXTX here, but maybe we'll get them answered. Who knows? I do have these comments I want to talk about before we dive into this final reading. Kix talked about how Hua Chong technically sacrificed 3 lives for peace with Shi Lian, and not lives of other people, but their own lives. And I was like, oh, they talked about how as a mortal on the battlefield, they died. As Wu Ming, they absorbed the human face disease and died. And then against Jun Wu, to save Shi Lian, they died. And to break Shi Lian's cursed shackle. And I was like, so those 3 times, again, rule of 3, I was like, that is so amazing to think about that Hua Chong did that for Shi Lian. Anime Annie points out that Hua Chong could possibly, according to the amnesiac extras from what we saw, may shift forms while in bed. The kinkery ensues. I just love the idea of Hua Chong being San Long and then shifting back into his original form, and then Shi Lian's like, I'm all here for it. So that was really good. Athena W talked about Hua Chong rebuking Iming in the bathtub scene back during the amnesiac episode. And it could be linked to the idea that Hua Chong's extension of himself, it's like, I like that Athena pointed out that they still have a long way to go in terms of solving their inner trauma. Like Shi Lian, has been full of self-harm, and Hua Chong has tried to shift him away from that. And Hua Chong is very self-loathing, and he's self-deprecating, and he just, gets onto himself. And it's like both Shi Lian and Hua Chong need each other to make themselves better. And I like that. I like that they help each other out in that regard. SQQLBH314 talked about how the amnesia title for the extras on the amnesiac chapters are a play on the life of Pi, which I've seen Life of Pi. It's really good. And now all I can picture is Hua Chong as a tiger. so there's that, right? But also the land of God and soil. I forgot about them. They basically were in volume 1 when Shi Lian was with Nan Fong and Fu Yao. And when he was with both of them and were trying to ask for directions while investigating the bridal case, he was there too. And I was like, I forgot about that. So MXTX just coming full circle. Stuff you read a year and a half ago, we're just bringing it back. And then Ceci Sakwinar talked about the amnesiac extra. Hua Chong never calls Shi Lian by his name. And in that, we talked about this in the Discord. Ceci was pointing out that maybe Hua Chong, Shi Lian said as a 17-year-old he didn't want anybody calling him by his official name, that it was not, proper. And maybe that's why Hua Chong was like, oh, well, you're my deity, I don't want to do that. But then other people were talking about how, like, Mu Qing calls Shi Lian by his name, but Mu Qing also doesn't care. Mu Qing's like, I'm going to call you by your name, whatever, and functions just being polite. So I thought all that was really good to point out, but y'all, what do we do, right? I'm so excited that we're here. So excited that we are here and able to talk about this. So yeah, I've got my microphone. I'm trying to get it as close as I can so y'all can hear me the best. I've got my coffee. It is a cold and dreary day outside. And so I'm very, very, very excited to dive into this final chapter. So that's what we're going to do, but we're going to start the final chapter of Heaven Official's Blessing here in 3, 2, 1. The Ghost King's birthday. Yes! Oh my God! Okay. Ghost King's birthday. Sure thing. Okay. A major event was fast approaching. This event had sent every ghost in Ghost City into a tizzy, of course. Shi Lian was also shocked when he heard about it. Soon, he was just as antsy as the ghost who'd come to inform him in secret. Birthday? That's right. This feels like such Leslie Knope energy where she's like, Ron Swanson's birthday, Hua Chong's birthday. That's right, indeed. The Lord of the Ghost City, Hua Chong, had a big birthday coming up. He was turning a ripe old who knew how many years old. Nobody cares, right, at this point? This information completely blindsided Shi Lian, and an inexplicable panic seized him. Then how did San Long celebrate in the past? The ghosts fought to answer, and their responses were all over the place. Oh, with a huge party, quack! Well, it's not really him doing the celebrating. We just fool around our own, I guess. But what? Chongzu doesn't care about it all, When he heard this, Shi Lian asked, what do you mean he doesn't care at all? His lordship never celebrates his birthday. Of course, there had to be a little secret angst thrown into it, right? Yeah. Yeah, he never cares what we do on the big day. He never spares a look at any of our presents either, quack. So every year his birthday bash is just us having a swell time on our own, quack. I like that this duck ghost has been like the most intricate ghost working with Hua Chong. Like this random duck ghost has been here the whole story and they're always there in the ghost day. They're just like quack, so you know it's him. And I'm just like, what? I love it. The eminent have sparse memories. His lordship doesn't seem to remember what day his birthday is even on. So why? I guess they just picked a day. Shilian thought for a moment and then made a firm decision. Since Hua Chong had shown such little care for his previous birthdays, Shilian had to think of a way to make this one different. Oh, of course, go full on Leslie Knope. Do it. To make it notable and interesting, and to give him a perfectly happy day. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a birthday just like all the rest, whether Shilian was with him or not? First, a present was a must. Shilian fell into deep contemplation. What should he give? The ghost stared at him with hopeful eyes. Oh, Ji Zhaozhong, are you thinking about what to give, my lord? One asked. Yes, Shilian said. Much ashamed, I'm not too confident I know what Chongzhu even likes. What if I give him something he doesn't fancy? Oh, please, what are you worried about? The hog butcher assured. As long as it's from granduncle, from Ji Daozhong, I'm positive that Chongzhu will be beside himself with joy. This butcher knows what's up. They all know. They're like, Shilian, you could give him like a steamed bun that's half eaten and he would think it's amazing. You should be fine. Yeah, he'd even be happy if you gave him a piece of scrap paper. Ji Daozhong's present will always be different from anyone else's. These ghosts know what's up. They're like us. Basically, the ghosts in this story are the fandom. They're all of us. We're just ghosts from the ghost realm that are supporting Shilian and Hua Chong in however we need to. Shilian gave a dry chuckle in response. He considered that sort of thinking vain and frivolous. It wasn't serious or sincere in the least. You can't say that, he said. A present must be carefully chosen. Does anyone have any ideas? Now, Shilian asking the ghosts for advice on this matter is somewhat concerning because I'm like, what they think? They've just noted how Hua Chong doesn't care about their presents, so I'm a little worried. Hua Chong had ruled over the ghost city for centuries, so perhaps the ghost knew a bit more about the kinds of things that he liked. Maybe there was some nascent ideas to be plucked from this group brainstorming session, and he'd be able to find a present that was both suitable and original if he used his head a little. Sure enough, the crowd answered, oh, yes, yes, yes. Dozens of chicken feet, pig trotters, and testicles extended towards Shilian, offering a mess of things. What? Oh my God. I like that pigs and chickens and just balls, just testicles just start going towards Shilian in a frenzy. Yep, some of which he'd never even seen before. I like that the phrase testicles extended towards Shilian offering a mess of things. What do we do with that? What do we do with that? Okay. Yep. Amazed and surrounded, he picked an item at random, a small green jade bottle that was rather mysterious and elegant. Oh, what's this? Oh, it's the bestest love potion, the offer of the bottle said. A few small drops and the person being drugged is guaranteed to fall head over heels for the one doing the drugging. Their desire will be set ablaze, with no harm done to the body. After a pause, Shilian turned serious. Thank you for the recommendation. However, love is born from the heart. How can it be manipulated by a potion? Don't use things like this in the future, everyone, he scolded. I love that Shilian's like, we don't use drugs to try and make people fall in love. That's not acceptable. It has to come from the heart. I like Shilian is trying to have a teachable moment with these ghosts, being like, you can't do that, guys. No, not gonna work. Also, why would he need a love potion? Hua Chong loves him more than anything else in the world. That's not gonna be of use to him. No. Oh, yes, you're right. I won't use it anymore, the ghost who'd offered the potion replied, fearful and reverent. But we typically don't really use it. I only suggested it because Ji Zhaozhong was asking for what to give as a gift. Shilian didn't know whether to laugh or cry at that. Why did they think he would need to give Hua Chong a love potion? Yes. I don't imagine your Chongzhu would need a potion like this, he chuckled. The crowd pushed that ghost down and away in a flurry of hands and feet, exclaiming, yeah, would Chongzhu need a potion if he desired somebody? Honestly. That certainly is the big fat truth of the matter, Shilian said. Yeah, oh, I love it. I love how the story is just right there with us, right? In his own case, not a single drop of potion was needed. He was under Hua Chong's spell at the mere sight of him. How very shameful. Ah, yes, 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 yes. To keep his embarrassment from surfacing on his face in a blush, he quickly picked up a box. And what's in here? Pearls? Pills? He asked as he opened it. It's a childbearing pill! The ghost who had offered the treasure replied. MXTX! What? Speechless! Shilian immediately snapped the box shut. He didn't even need to ask what that thing did. What the heck is all this stuff? He mumbled helplessly. Why were they only giving him such unseemingly suggestions for Hua Chong's presence? Oh, in any case, after that messy excuse of a discussion, Shilian knew that there was no useful suggestions to be gotten from them. He told the ghost to prepare the Ghost King's birthday celebration in secret to give Hua Chong a surprise and left to think on his own. Okay, we're gonna have to stop the book right here. Couple things. One, this entire story has been an Omegaverse in secret this entire time. Am I right? We're finishing up Janu Yowie just in time. I never thought that Sex Pistols would get a reference in this book, but here we are. So you could take a childbearing pill and be able to have a kid. Shilian turned away the gift for now, but they exist in this world. So MXTX is basically saying, you know, hey, fanfic writers, if you want to in the future, here's your way to justify Shilian and Hua Chong having a baby. Have fun. I shouldn't be surprised. We've had every other inkling and inclination that Omegaverse elements exist in this story. But here we are. I would like MXTX to write an Omegaverse story because I think it would be interesting. It's like she clearly wants to. It feels like she wanted to in this story and she just couldn't commit. And she was like, I don't want to commit to it. So I'm going to just put these elements here and see if people notice or if they care. And I wouldn't be surprised if she did write a story like that. It seems like she wants to. What? Oh my God. Okay. Well, that is amazing. And now we, like, just the fanfic writers, I can only imagine. Wow, okay. All right. Perhaps the matter occupied so much of his mind that his grief was written on his face. He was racking his brain while keeping Hua Chong company during his writing practice when one spoke beside him. Gege. Shilian snapped out of it. Oh, what is it? He asked, tilting his head. Is it my imagination? Hua Chong began, putting down his brush and staring intently at him. Or are you worried about something, Gege? Won't you tell me and allow your son Long to share your burdens and help solve the problem? Oh my God, he's being like the best boyfriend ever, the best husband ever. And Shilian's like, I can't, it's your surprise party. Shilian tensed and neutralized his expression in an instant. Do not put down your brush, he warned. Do not slack, pick it back up and continue. Ooh, Shilian is this little taskmaster. Seems like some role play you could really get into. Hua Chong laughed aloud and picked up his brush anew. I got caught, he lamented with a lazy sigh. Like, yeah, he was like trying to find a way not to work. Seeing that he'd managed to muddle the matter for now, Shilian gave a mental sigh of his own in relief. Yet Hua Chong only wrote 2 more lines before he said, sounding casual, but Gege, you certainly have been acting a little odd lately. Shilian tensed again. Oh, how so? Hua Chong studied him for a while before chuckling. Gege seems a little more compliant than usual. Haven't I always been like that? Shilian replied with a smile. But Shilian really was drawing a blank even after he'd thought long and hard, so he decided to take a risk. He blabbed about nothing in particular for a little while. Then, when he asked with an attempt at nonchalance, Oh, San Long, I have a question for you. What is that? Hua Chong asked. Do you ever feel that something is lacking or something? If he says a child, I'm going to die. Lacking? Hua Chong wondered. What do you mean, Gege? Do you lack something? Oh, no, I meant you. I'm just asking. But Shilian didn't dare be too straightforward, lest Hua Chong catch on. Instead of asking questions like, what kinds of things do you like? Or what sorts of presents do you want? He knew he had to ask in a roundabout way, but he wasn't sure if rounding about would supply the information needed. What a terribly stressful business this was. Me? Oh, we're going to talk about this picture in a minute. Me? Hua Chong wondered. Does Gege think I lack anything? He truly didn't. Shilian couldn't help but deflate in embarrassment. Why do you ask, Gege? Afraid he was about to catch on, Shilian took the extreme option and gave him a hard shove. Oh! Oh, Hua Chong was never on guard against him, so he was knocked back against the bed with a thud. Although his eye went wide with surprise, he clearly didn't object to this treatment. Gege, what is this? He asked, flashing a smile. Such enthusiasm, you. Shilian boldly approached and sealed his words, preventing Hua Chong from finishing that thought. Soon, Hua Chong had lost all mind for further interrogation. He captured him in his arms, flipped their positions, and stopped caring about Shilian's odd behavior. Oh my God! Ah! Shilian's like, I'm just going to use sex to diffuse the situation. You won't even know after this. Look at this image. Look at this shit. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. For one, were they even writing? Were they even practicing writing? Really? Honestly? But also, damn. Damn. I have no words. But the idea, it's just MXTX. Again, we talked about this in previous extras. With Modao Zushi, MXTX was very explicit in describing every little thing that happens. And here MXTX is like, I'm going to give you a taste. And you just fill in the blanks with whatever you want. And it's up to you. Because, yeah, the idea of Shilian, like, pushing him back against the bed, and Hua Chong's like, I am not opposed to this at all. He's like, because, yeah, Hua Chong is like, I am all for. But here's the fun part. Hua Chong likes Shilian being forceful, because he's like, oh, my deity is, like, telling me what to do. I'm okay with this. But at the end of the scenario, Hua Chong flips them over, and he's like, I'm still going to be the man on top. But you get to be the man that's forceful and initiate it. Okay? Oh my God. That idea. Yep. Shilian's like, oh, what do? I also like this idea of Shilian, like, initiating it and being comfortable with sex with San Long. He's just not like, he's like, oh no, San Long, should we do it? No, he was like, we're going to do this so you forget about this. Although Shilian racked his brain long and hard, he was still coming up empty. Some of the word choices in this translation, by the way, firm, long and hard. I know what y'all are doing. He was still coming up empty, so he had no choice but seek outside help. Oh no! Like, who's gonna help? Who's gonna know more about Hua Chong than him, right? And the first ones he thought of course, were his two capable former subordinates. The three of them had just crouched together in a remote, unknown, rundown temple. I like Shilian's having, like, a drug deal, like, out this abandoned temple. He's like, do you guys know what Hua Chong would want? And they're like, the fudge, really? After a period of awkward silence, Function asked, what are you two looking at me for? The two continued to stare at him, their silence speaking for them. What? It couldn't be helped. Of the three of them, Function was the only one who had ever had a wife, so he should technically be the one who knew best how to delight one's beloved. But Function's face only grew darker the more they stared. It won't be of any use, no matter how long you two stare at me, he said. I only gave her one thing. The golden belt, one that Shilian had given him. Mu Qing couldn't believe he'd been dragged out to discuss something like this. The fact that he wasn't yet rolling his eyes was already very polite of him. I like that Mu Qing has gotten polite enough to avoid doing that. All he wanted was to get this over with, and quickly. That works. Belts are nice. You might as well give him a golden one too. Mu Qing's like, let's just get this on so I can leave. But Shilian automatically filtered out the sarcasm and replies, but I don't have any more. They'd all been pawned centuries ago. Going harder on the passive aggression. Mu Qing's going harder on the passive aggression is hilarious. He said, everything's smooth sailing for you now. The streets are filled with your temples and devotees. Just send any of those people a dream and tell them what you want. That'll net you a golden belt, no problem. But that's meaningless, Shelian said. I hardly be putting my heart into it if I got my devotees to offer me a present that I want to give someone else. Seeing this sarcasm hadn't registered, Mooching's tone finally returned to normal. Why are you being such a pain? Just make something yourself then. Good idea, Shelian said quickly, but I don't know how. You can learn. You're right, but from who? Mooching was growing impatient. How should I know? Just grab someone. Before he could finish the sentence, Mooching trailed off and realized the stairs were on him now. Oh, you've dug your own grave. 4 hours later, all 10 of Shelian's fingers were covered with needle pricks and fully wrapped in bandages to keep his hands from streaming blood. His pain and effort had produced a long, striped object of indeterminate purpose. Unable to stand the sight of the thing, Mooching demanded, "What is that?" Shelian sighed, "A belt." "I know it's a belt," Mooching said gruffly. "What I'm asking is, what do you attempt to embroider on it? What are those two potatoes supposed to symbolize?" "They aren't potatoes," Shelian protested. "They're two people, can't you tell?" Oh my God, I would be Shelian. My great-grandmother, she quilted all the time. She was a quilter. She could sew. She could make anything. And I remember when I was younger, I was probably in high school, so I was not that young, but she was like, she made me a quilt, and she's like, "I want you to sew a square of the quilt." And I thought that'd be a really nice gesture. So I was like Shelian. I spent like an hour on this one little square trying to sew it. I had poked my fingers. I had bandages all over them. It looked gaudy and awful. And I remember my great-grandmother, who was like in her early 90s at the time, she looked at the square and then she looked back at me, and in the saltiest but sweetest voice, she goes, "You know, dear, some people just don't have the talent." Some people just don't have the talent. And she took the needle back, and that was it. And I never sewed again. And I was like, fair enough. But oh my God, these potatoes. To help Mooching better visualize it, he gestured as he explained, "Well, these are their faces, and these are the eyes, and the mouths are here." After confirming that these two were indeed the head of two humans beings, Mooching was floored. Who embroiders two giant heads on a belt? Well, can you even wear something like that in public? Your taste in fashion isn't that terrible. So how'd you manage to churn out something like this? Clearly, Shelian would not be doing well in a sewing challenge on RuPaul's Drag Race. But Mooching would. Mooching's like Trinity the Tuck, just making everybody's stuff for them, right? Shelian couldn't help it. He was adept when it came to things like fixing up a house and digging a well and building walls and so on. He was good and fast at those tasks, but he was apparently born to be inept when it came to household crafts that women were partial to. The situation spiraled out of control from the moment he picked up a needle or a spatula. That's a really good point. So, interestingly enough, and I like MXTX's kind of commentary here, because Shelian's always been kind of, you look at this, for example, Shelian has like the feminine, the flowers, the energy. He doesn't ever, but from the look of it, right? That's the point. From the look of things, Shelian looks like he would have the more feminine energy in the situation. But throughout this story, we've established that's not the case. Shelian doesn't want to be a woman. He never transforms into a woman with the Windmaster. He's not good at cooking. He doesn't like sewing. Like, all of the things that are normally prescribed to female is not something that Shelian attributes himself to. He's into swords. He likes building things. He's a construction thing. So I like that MXTX takes on that concept of the gendered roles that some partners in couples have naturally or stereotypically, and completely subverts them and flips them on their head. I like that. I'm like, yes, great, awesome, right? So he glanced at his hands, now both wrapped as thoroughly as his ongji. Although he didn't feel pain, he couldn't help but feel discouraged by the speed of his progress. I'll fix it, I guess. But the work was complete, so how could he fix it? The most he could do was add a circle of flower petals around the pair of little heads, thus transforming them into a canoodling pair of big, clumsy flower heads. Function and Mooching grimaced harder, and the veins bulged faintly on Mooching's forehead. "I taught a pig, and it learned," he scolded. "Why are you such a klutz? All you're doing is stabbing your hands." Function spoke up. "When did you ever teach a pig? You're all talk." "Forget it. You should just give up. You don't have the talent for this," Mooching said bluntly to Shelian. Mooching is my great-grandma, literally. It was rare that he got to tell Shelian that he didn't have the talent for something, and with a total lack of humility to boot, it felt kind of nice. Of course Muqing would enjoy saying this, right? Oh my god. Function couldn't listen to him anymore. Can you cut the crap? You haven't praised His Highness even once since we started. Wearing clothes and making them yourself aren't the same thing. Besides, the belt isn't that bad. At least it's wearable. I like Function is trying to salvage the situation. I also agree with Function. I want to know when Muqing taught a pig to sew. I'm so curious. All right, sure. Have him give you that thing, and if you dare wear it outside, you win. But Hua Chong would wear this in a heartbeat, right? Would wear it, would savor it. Before Function had a chance to respond, Shelian hurried to tuck away the belt that was so ugly it was funny. No, let's not. I better just keep this for myself. He couldn't give anyone something like this. Oh, but I want him to give Hua Chong the belt. I think Hua Chong would love the belt. I think he would. Function and Muqing weren't much help, so Shelian went to the next person who crossed his mind. Oh, a gift! Oh, Your Highness, you've come to the right person. There's not a single rare treasure out there that I have never laid eyes on. The two crouched on the side of the road. I like that they're just in random spots, hiding. Enthusiasm ignited. The disheveled Shi Qingshang gushed on and on. He was obviously an expert on the matter, and Shelian's requests for advice grew even more humble. There definitely are precious treasures out there that haven't been claimed, but you've got to put an immense effort to get them, Shi Qingshang advised eagerly. Well, that's fine, Shelian quickly assured him. That suits me perfectly. More effort meant a more precious treasure, and wouldn't that demonstrate his sincerity wonderfully? All the better if it was the treasure hardest to acquire in the whole world, one that no one had ever succeeded in obtaining. That way, it would make for an extraordinarily meaningful gift should he retrieve it for Hua Chong. When he thought about how Hua Chong would slightly arch one eyebrow and curl one corner of his lips upward, Shelian was seized by an uncontrollable excitement. He couldn't wait to jump into action. Oh, Shelian's like, I want to see him react to it, right? Shi Qingshang thought for a moment and suggested, the Starry Sky flagon. You've heard of it, right, Your Highness? The thing is a treasure, I tell you. Set it out under the night sky, and the fine wine in the flagon will reflect the sea of stars it absorbs, and as it absorbs the essential spiritual energy of the heavens, the earth, the sun, and the moon, not only is it a charming, elegant, decorative piece, it's also a great cultivation aid. However, as he listened, Shelian had a sinking feeling. Wait. What? Qingshang, are you talking about a small black jade flagon about this big? Shelian asked, gesturing a vague size. With stardust encrusting the surface like fine gems? What? How did Your Highness know? Have you seen it before? Shi Qingshang asked in amazement. He had seen it. Last month. He broke it. He had wanted to pour himself some water and he forgot he injured his arm, so his hand slipped. At the time, Hua Chong came over and immediately to inquire about his injury. Shelian noticed that the flagon had been exceptionally unique and beautiful, so he asked Hua Chong what to do about it and whether it should be repaired. But Hua Chong had simply assured him it was okay. It was nothing but a petty trinket. He didn't spare it a single glance before calling a subordinate to sweep it up and toss out the pieces, as he whisked Shelian away to treat his arm. Hearing Qingshang's description, he had to think, could that shattered drinking vessel have been the rare Starry Sky flagon? With a sinking heart, Shelian paused and said, that one might not be suitable. How about something different? Which should be a sign that Hua Chong doesn't care about trinkets or treasures. He just wants Shelian. You know? Oh. Shi Qingshang scratched his head, not quite understanding, but he racked his brain briefly and tried again. Next one, the 8 corners brush. That brush is amazing, I tell you. The bristles were plucked from the tip of an ancient Yao beast's magic tail, and its shaft was wrought from a stalk that sprouted atop the head of a jade bamboo spirit. When not in use, it will grow jade green bamboo leaves? Shelian cut in. Yeah, how'd you know that, Your Highness? You've seen that one before, too? He asked. How could Shelian not know about it? That was the brush that Hua Chong used every day for writing practice. And he'd blame it when his writing came out ugly. He had chucked it to the floor time and time again, and sometimes it'd get kicked away to who knew where. After practice, Shelian had to scour the room to find where the poor brush had gotten to, pick it up, wipe it off, and put it away. That might not be suitable either. Do you have any other ideas? Shi Qingshang rattled off 7 or 8 treasures, one after the other. Shelian discovered that all the things most people considered the world's rarest treasures sounded awfully familiar to him. And they were all in awfully tragic states. They were serving as Hua Chong's footstools and throw rugs. He either played with them like toys or had already lost interest and tossed them away. However, on reflection, Shilian considered that fairly logical. Was there a single rare treasure out there that Hua Chong hadn't seen or gotten his hands on easily? Thus, this line of thinking was another dead end, and the search for the Ghost King's birthday present continued. I kind of like this, where this is going, though, because it's suggesting that Hua Chong already has what he wants. He doesn't need anything else. Oh. A drowning man will clutch at straws, and Shilian had asked pretty much everyone he knew, or at least he had, or at least everyone he had hope of getting a decent answer from. Chan Yizhen only knew how to stuff gold bars into things, and Hua Chong didn't lack for money. Pei Ming only knew how to give presents to women and couldn't come up with anything serious when asked what to give a man. That's such a wasted opportunity. You know, Pei Ming would be like, I have these treasures that could help you with certain situations, and Shilian's like, no! I'm surprised Pei Ming didn't also offer childbearing pills as well. But then again, Pei Ming doesn't want a kid, so he'd probably been like, no thanks. As for Ling Wen, although she had escaped prison thanks to many high-ranking heavenly officials who vouched for her, and because she was absolutely irreplaceable in the upper court, she was so thoroughly submerged in the sea of scrolls that had been thrown at her that she'd lost all sense. She knew nothing beyond working through reports at this point. Life in prison would have been much less stressful. Without any workable ideas from anyone else, Shilian was out of options. There were only 2 days until Hua Chong's birthday. Shilian lay awake with eyes wide open and thought about it for an entire night. Finally, as he greeted dawn with bloodshot eyes, he decided what he would give. With a clear goal in mind, he sat up quietly in bed, moving slowly. He glanced at Hua Chong, who was sleeping soundly next to him. Oh, I love this visual of Shilian and Hua Chong just domestically in bed together. And he wakes up and looks over to Hua Chong. Hua Chong's just passed out. Like the first time Hua Chong can be at peace with himself with Shilian. Oh. Hua Chong's hair was luminously black like raven feathers. His long eyelashes were as dark as ink. When his eyes were shut tightly, it wasn't obvious that one of them was no longer there. His handsome features and the natural aggressiveness of his expression softened in his sleep. Right now, he looked endlessly gentle. Oh, that's so beautiful. Before Shilian could climb out of bed, he felt a sudden tightening around his waist, and then a hand scooped him back. Gege, what are you doing up so early? Asked a lazy voice from behind him. Oh, Hua Chong had woken up. His voice was low and a bit raspy, like he was still half asleep. Caught in the act and scooped back into bed, Shilian forced down his guilt and replied in a calm voice, Oh, there's a prayer to be answered. Hua Chong shuffled closer and dropped a kiss by his ear. The sky hasn't lightened yet, he said. Who's gone to pray at a temple so early in the morning? Are they looking to die? Ah! He's like, nobody should be praying to you this early in the morning. Get back here. Perhaps it was his guilty conscience. But Shilian's face was growing hotter and hotter as he listened to the voice in his ear. I don't blame you. Hua Chong, being that close. No, it didn't just come in. I've just been letting it sit for a while now. He tried to get up again as he spoke, and as it was honestly difficult to speak normally in this position, but Hua Chong followed him upright. He circled his arm around Shilian's shoulders from behind and rested his head against the curve of his neck. Quit inventing romance, MXTX. Quit reinventing it over and over again. Since you've been letting it sit, what does it matter if you let it keep sitting? Gege, you worked so hard last night. Why don't you rest a bit more? Oh, what was he working hard at, we wonder? As Shilian struggled to fend off his clingy arms and alluring voice, he said with immense reluctance, I've already let it sit for too long. I can't hold off any longer. Oh, Hua Chong said. Then shall I go with you? No. It's okay, Shilian said, quickly declined. Huckleberry! These two. No, it's okay. It won't take too long. I'll be back very soon. You just rest. Are you sure you don't need me to come with you? Hua Chong confirmed. No, Shilian exclaimed. You can't come. You absolutely mustn't. And that's when Hua Chong cracked his eye open a slit. Why not? Shilian was stumped briefly, but then he whirled around and seized Hua Chong by the shoulders. You must practice writing, he commanded him sternly, looking him straight in the eye. Hua Chong looked at him with an innocent expression, and he blinked. You must stay in the temple all day to practice, Shilian forced himself to say. I'll check your work when I return. As this order was issued, Hua Chong's expression only grew more innocent, and he tilted his head as he replied very obediently, okay. I'm sure that at this point Hua Chong is like, something's up, but I'm going to go along with this because Gege has asked me to. Now that the Ghost King had been managed at last, Shilian scrambled away. Half reclining atop their altar bed, Hua Chong smiled as he watched his fleeing back with a narrowed eye. He pillowed his arms behind his head and laid back down. He's like, I like that. He's like half reclining. He like watches his fleeing back with a narrowed eye, and he's just like, okay, fine. I'll let you do whatever you need to, Shilian, but... First, Shilian traveled out in the wilderness. After collecting the thing he'd set out for, he made for Mount Tonglu. What? He approached a small cottage in a forested area of the greater mountain range. As soon as he walked inside, he saw that the state preceptor had set up a table and dragged 3 empty-shelled people around it to play cards. His face was set and serious, and Shilian immediately turned to leave without a word. Oh, the Goshi staying in Mount Tonglu, where Junwoo was buried. That's really sad. That's really sad. I don't know how I feel about that. However, the state preceptor's eyes flashed when he saw him. Stop right there, he barked. Shilian knew there was only one circumstance in which the state preceptor would allow him to interrupt a game. Sure enough, the state preceptor flipped the table seconds later. The game's over. Something's come up. Gotta go. Get back here, Your Highness. Why'd you come to seek me out? Shilian looked back, and he saw the 3 empty-shelled people flop to the ground. Clearly, the state preceptor had been on the verge of losing. I like that he even loses to the empty-shelled people. Like the Goshi can never win a game. That's really sad, though. Like, his friends are still gone, and he doesn't have Junwoo, so... It's actually not anything important, he lied. No, the Goshi said quickly. Judging by your serious expression, it must be something major. The cards can wait. Let your master help you. After Shilian explained the reason for his visit, however, the state preceptor wore a different expression. As the two of them sat together on a long, crude bench, the only thing echoing through the air was the preceptor's scolding. You're right, this isn't anything important. A mere birthday? It's not worth racking your brain over, running all over the place, and going to retrieve that thing personally. Shilian knew he couldn't explain himself to others. They wouldn't understand even if tried. He rubbed his forehead so hard it began to turn red. Well, either way, I've already collected the primary material, he said. It's just that I've forgotten how to forge the Shanla style of longevity lock. Like the one that I wore when I was little. Master, will you please give me some pointers? There's no need for you to do anything else. I'll do all the work myself. Oh, a longevity lock, like the one that Shiwudu made for the Windmaster. That's what he's wanting to make him. Oh, okay. You don't need to prepare any birthday presents, the state preceptor said gruffly, like he still can get over the very idea. You already delivered yourself to his doorstep. What more does he want? Did he mean to say, you're the best present of all? Shilian really couldn't stand that kind of argument. The concept of itself bothered him. He slapped a hand over his forehead and thought, I'm not that vain. Of course Shilian wouldn't think that he's good enough for Hua Chong. Of course he wouldn't think that. But the Goshi hit it on the head. He's like, he doesn't want anything else. What are you doing? Seeing him shake his head and wholeheartedly resist the idea, the state preceptor said, and you're being pathetic, honestly. You're the only heavenly official in history who's ever ascended thrice. You are the flower-crowned martial god, the crown prince of Shanla. At 17, you had the audacity to tell the whole world you were going to save the common people. At 18, Master, stop, Shilian cut in. Master, enough, don't say any more. With such an embarrassing past, what was there to be proud of? The state preceptor watched him with a complicated expression. Your Highness, you really don't need to belittle yourself like this, he said, exasperated. It's not that I'm... My dogs. It's not that I'm belittling myself. It was just, when it came to the man he loved, it was natural to want to give him the best in the world that it had to offer. But he also couldn't help feeling that he wasn't good enough for him. I'm like, Shilian, get over that at this point. I'm with the Goshi. I'm with Mei Nianqing. Get over that. You're good enough. Seriously. The sight of Shilian right now made the state preceptor sigh. He crossed his hands and tucked them into his sleeves, thought for a while, and then said, a longevity lock. Wait a moment, let me think. That was so long ago now. I can't be sure that I remember every detail of how to craft it or the blessing ritual. So he did that for them back then, Shi Wudu and Shi Ching Chong. Okay. That's fine, Shilian said. If you can't remember either, then I'll piece it together from memory. I'm certain my sincerity will make up for the rest. After a short pause, the state preceptor glanced at Shilian and said, do you want to ask him? He didn't say the name, but Shilian knew exactly whom he was speaking of. Oh! Junwoo is not dead! Oh! Oh, shit! Junwoo was imprisoned deep in Mount Tonglu's underground. Shilian was silent for a long time, but in the end, he shook his head. That's why Mei Nianqing can't leave. He's staying in Mount Tonglu to watch over Junwoo. Oh, so he's not dead. Well, I mean, I'm not surprised he's not dead, but he's imprisoned underground in Mount Tonglu and he can never be released, and Mei Nianqing is spending the rest of his existence guarding over him. Okay. All right. I'm also glad that Shilian did not go to Junwoo, because that's such an old wound, and Shilian's past all that now that, no. Oh my god. Oh, that is... Well, that explains a lot. That explains a very lot. After spending a good half day at Mount Tonglu, Shilian returned to the Ghost City. There were only a few hours left before Huachong's birthday formally arrived. The ghost and Shilian had agreed to pretend there was nothing afoot while sneakily decorating the Ghost City in secret. Shilian dodged into a small shop, and it wasn't long before he was surrounded by ghosts. Hey, you two! Hey, Huckleberry! My dogs have decided to play, so hopefully you can't hear them most. Watch out, Huckleberry! No. No. Quit it. All right. Yeah, they're both just like, who, us? Yeah. Anxious and chaotic, they asked him, well, how did it go? They were practically acting like thieves. How is your Chongju? Shilian asked. Has he noticed anything off? Oh, no, replied the ghosts. Chongju stayed inside the Thousand Lights Temple all day. Shilian was slightly amazed. The entire day? Yeah, Chongju seemed to be in a good mood. Grand, Shi Jiaozhong, did you prepare a birthday present? Reassured at last, Shilian smiled and touched the longevity lock he'd worked so hard to forge. Yes. I'm sure Huachong is like, what is going on? The ghosts were elated. They spent some time discussing the setup for tomorrow's birthday celebration before Shilian finally returned to the Thousand Lights Temple. Surprisingly, Huachong was all still practicing calligraphy when he walked in. Huachong actually doing his writing practice without Shilian's constant supervision was certainly a once-in-a-lifetime event. It seemed he truly was in a good mood. Shilian found it oddly funny to see that pitiful, precious 8 corners brush write such twisted, hideous words at the behest of Huachong's hand, and he shook his head. At the sound of Shilian's return, Huachong put down the brush, giving it a break from his torture at last. Gege, you're back, Huachong said with a smile, and just in time. Come look at my results. Oh, Shilian grinned. Okay. Just as he was about to approach, however, his face froze for a second, and his steps faltered, and he stopped frowning. Huachong instantly noticed something was wrong and was at Shilian's side in the space of a second. What is it? Shilian's expression swiftly returned to normal. Oh, nothing. It wasn't nothing. He actually felt a sharp, acute pang in his heart. But Huachong could not allow him to neglect his own health. Where did you go today? He asked as he caught Shilian's wrist. Did you get hurt again? No, Shilian said. And that was the truth. He really hadn't. Although he had been running around for the past few days, everything had gone quite smoothly, and he hadn't encountered any danger. Huachong hummed briefly. Unable to detect anything amiss, he dropped Shilian's wrist. Shilian breathed in deeply, in and out, and he didn't notice anything amiss either. Perhaps that pain had just been his imagination. Oh. But only, what does it say there? Maybe I tweaked a nerve or something, Shilian said with a laugh. All right, let me see how you've done today. Only then did Huachong smile once more. Catching Shilian's hand, he said, come here. Shilian hadn't responded before he felt another sudden stab of pain in his heart. This time it was definitely not his imagination. He felt it keenly. If the first time was a pinprick of pain, the second was like his heart being raked by sharp nails. Fortunately, Hua Chong had briefly turned his head away when it happened. Shilian might not have been able to blow it off as nothing otherwise. The timing of this problem was inconvenient. Shilian didn't want to tell Hua Chong and make him worry right now. They played around inside the Thousand Light Temple for a while before Shilian found an excuse to leave and examine himself more carefully. A moment later, he dropped his arm, his expression solemn. The conclusion was, of course, there was no problem whatsoever. Otherwise, Hua Chong would have caught it when he grabbed his wrist to check his pulse earlier. So why was he experiencing random pangs of heartache? Shilian pondered the matter for a moment and wondered if some evil spirit might have entered his body, or perhaps he'd been poisoned by something strange. He didn't panic, though, at least not yet. It'd be Hua Chong's birthday very soon. And if something happened, he surely would have no mind to celebrate and would instead drag Shilian off for treatment again. Shilian was used to bearing pain. Now, see, I don't like this at all because it's like Shilian just bearing this pain when he's not supposed to, right? And it wasn't like he hadn't experienced strange things like this before, so he didn't think anything of it. He decided to give it a day and deal with it on his own in secret later. Night came, and the hour was fast approaching. Shilian went back to the Thousand Lights Temple and found Hua Chong still inside, blatantly bored out of his mind and making a show of doodling and wasting paper. He's like, all right, I'm here. You've shown up. I've done my drawing. Now I'm just going to, just waste this. Shilian began to smile at the sight despite himself. But before the smile could fully bloom on his face, however, there was another stab of pain in his heart. When rubbing his chest didn't make it go away, he thought, well, it looks like this is a little serious, but I can bear it for a little while longer. No! Shilian. He drew a soft breath and walked in. San Long, there's something I might need your help with, he said gently. What is it? Hua Chong asked as he pushed the brush down. Well, close your eye first, Shilian said. Hua Chong quirked an eyebrow, but he closed his eye as directed without question. Shilian picked up his hands and said with a smile, follow me. There was a reversal of the night. This was a reversal of the night on Mount Yuzhen. And Hua Chong smiled. Sure. Watch the threshold, cautioned Shilian as he slowly guided Hua Chong to the door, hand in hand. It is like Shilian leading Hua Chong instead of Hua Chong leading him. Okay. Hua Chong had walked through the Thousand Lights Temple countless times and didn't need a reminder of how to walk where. Nonetheless, he waited until Shilian had given him a reminder before he lifted his boot, the silver chain on it jingling as he did so. They passed through the front gates and made their way down the long street that led away from the temple. They'd walked for quite a while before Shilian said, okay, now you can open your eye. Hua Chong did as directed, and in that instant, his ink-black eye brightened at once, like a lamp set alight. Lanterns and colorful banners hung around the rambling main street. It was much tidier and fresher than the usual messy street side. Every household had made great efforts to clean up, and new banners and signs replaced the tattered old ones. The walls and eaves were shiny and glistening. Everything looked brand new. The ghosts had them surrounded before they even realized it, all of them holding their breaths, and they didn't dare make a sound. The moment Hua Chong opened his eye, they started blowing horns and drumming drums and hollering a messy chorus of Happy Birthday, Chongzhu! Somebody also had the chance to yell, May you live a long time together, and even have a child soon! It was a horrible ruckus. Oh my god, yeah, the ghost city's like, we want a baby! Give us a baby! Shilian slapped a hand to his forehead at the sight of this awful presentation. They had spent a long time rehearsing and had managed just barely to cheer in chorus, so why was it such anarchy now? Well, because it's the ghost city. Obviously. Hua Chong was expressionless and apparently utterly unmoved by any of this. What are you all doing? This racket is murderous, he said, one brow arched. The ghosts had abandoned their rehearsed presentation. With shockingly thick skin, they replied, Then we die. It's not like anyone's alive here either, anyway. Hua Chong snorted a laugh. I mean, I like that it's just that kind of like jokey and yes manner. When he turned around, he saw Shilian standing behind him, hiding his hands behind his back. San Long, Shilian began, I heard it's your birthday today. Hua Chong had clearly been waiting for this a long time. He crossed his arms and tilted his head, replying with a grin. Yeah. Like he saw through all of this, right? Shilian cleared his throat softly a few times, and then suddenly hopped up and looped the longevity lock's chain around his neck. This was forged in a hurry, Shilian said, so I hope you don't mind. The longevity locket was engraved with patterns like the one found in Huanchu's van braces, maple leaves, butterflies, beasts, and so on, all carved in exquisite detail. Furthermore, it contained potential spiritual power. This was clearly an extraordinary item. The ghost hollered, raising a fanfare. "Oh, sublime! It's gorgeous! What is that treasure?" "Ah, only Chongju is worthy of wearing such a treasure. Only such a treasure is worthy of being worn by Chongju." They were so over the top that Shilian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was growing ever more nervous, not knowing whether he should ask Hua Chong what he thought of the gift. Hua Chong didn't say a word, but his eyes shone brightly, and a touch of a smile was surfacing on his lips. He picked up the silver lock that hung around his neck. However, just as he was about to speak, something unexpected happened. Shilian's knees suddenly buckled and he dropped to the ground. It was so sudden the circle of cheering ghosts turned into a circle of alarmed cries. Hua Chong's smile faded immediately, and he caught with a swift hand, "Gege, what's wrong?" Though his face was pale, Shilian managed to smile. "Nothing," but the sentence died in his throat before he could even begin. Oh, there it is again. Inexplicable heartache had struck again. This time the pain was excruciating, like his heart was being blown to pieces. Why is Shilian having a heart attack? What is happening? Shilian groaned inwardly. He hadn't expected the onslaught of pain to be so aggressive. Each attack was more brutal than the previous. It just had to strike now. He was still rather calm, all things considered, but the agony went on and on. He felt like somebody was hammering a peachwood nail into his heart. Shilian was in so much pain that it was hard to breathe. He could barely lift his head, and he was drenched in a cold sweat. Hua Chong's expression had changed completely. "Your Highness." He caught Shilian's wrist, but he couldn't detect anything wrong. "Your Highness, where did you go yesterday?" Panicked cries sounded from all around. Although Shilian moved his lips, he couldn't utter a single word. It was like someone had nailed his throat closed. The arms that held Shilian were nearly shaking. A frenzy that bordered on madness colored Hua Chong's handsome face, which had always looked calm and unbothered. Another heavy pang struck Shilian's heart, and he finally passed out, unable to hold out any longer. Before he lost consciousness, the word sorry filled his mind. Today was Hua Chong's birthday. So is it because he was at Mount Tonglu? Is this somewhat Junwoo, like, getting like a jab at him? What is happening? What? An unknown amount of time passed before Shilian jolted awake. He stared blankly at the ceiling above, yet not having caught his breath. "This is the Thousand Lights Temple," he said dazedly. "What happened to me, and did I fall asleep?" He was still slowly coming back around when the hand suddenly caught and supported him. Not inches away from him, he heard Hua Chong's voice, "Your Highness." Shilian looked up, and sure enough, he saw Hua Chong's expression was burning with pure, desperate concern. Shilian blinked, and he was just about to speak when another wave of excruciating pain struck his heart. Now he was thoroughly awake. He hunched over instantly, his fingers digging into the flesh of his chest. He exerted immense strength, like he was trying to claw out his own heart by force, and Hua Chong immediately seized his wrist. "Your Highness," he cried. Had he not moved fast as he did, 5 bloody holes would have bloomed on Shilian's chest right above his heart. "This doesn't look right. Why don't you let go of him first?" said a voice from the side. Mu Ching, he was here too, surprisingly. "What if he hurts himself when I do?" exclaimed Hua Chong. "Oh, I'll help you hold him down," Feng Shen's voice chimed in. "If we don't figure out what's wrong quickly, the pain won't stop." Oh, all 3 of them there to help Shilian. That means that Hua Chong went to get Mu Ching and Feng Shen to help as well. Still hunched over, Shilian felt another hand seize his wrist. Hua Chong seemed to falter at Feng Shen's words, and sure enough, he released him. It was strange. The pain lessened significantly the moment he let go. At the very least, Shilian could move now. When he flipped onto his side, he noticed that Feng Shen and Mu Ching were standing there beside him. They'd probably been summoned here for questioning. As for Hua Chong, he was standing nearby and watching him with an unblinking eye. When Shilian saw him, the ache, which had finally subsided somewhat, made a full-force comeback. Seeing his face change colors again, Mu Ching turned to Hua Chong. "Stand further back! He starts hurting whenever you come close, whenever he sees you." Hua Chong froze when he heard those words, and a terrible, almost indescribable expression crossed his face. Nonetheless, he darted away immediately, retreating outside the room, and when he disappeared from Shilian's line of sight, the agony in his heart abruptly ceased once more. The ebb and flow of the pain was driving Shilian nearly mad. He panted a few times and gritted out with difficulty, "What in the world is going on?" Mu Ching and Feng Shen were holding him down firmly to prevent him from squirming into a position where he could peek at Hua Chong. "What is going on? We should be asking you that. What's going on with you? You must have messed with something, Muqing exclaimed. Wouldn't I know if I had, Shilian said. Besides, Hua Chong had checked him over earlier. Then, did you go anywhere strange over the past few days? The only places I went to were Mount Tonglu and the state preceptor's tomb, Shilian replied. Muqing furrowed his brow. What? The state preceptor's tomb? What state preceptor's tomb? Hua Chong, who was standing outside the room, understood immediately. State preceptor Feng Shin's tomb? San Long, why don't you come in? Shilian beckoned. Gege, it's best for you to stay in there and recuperate. I'll take a look on your behalf. Came Hua Chong's low, grave voice from outside the room. Oh, I'll go too, Shilian cried, but the moment he rose, he crumpled back down in pain. There were no further sounds from Hua Chong after that, so he had probably already left. What did he go and get from the tomb? Shilian's arduously attempted to rise again, and Muqing said, you should stop moving around. You can barely walk at this point. 4 hands pushed Shilian back down. It's not like I've never been in pain before, Shilian exclaimed, struggling all the while. I'll get used to it. He couldn't stop seeing Hua Chong because of this. You're willing to be in pain, but your San Long isn't willing to allow that, Muqing pointed out. Oh my God, the fact that Muqing said your San Long, being like, no, your husband is not going to let you be in pain anymore. Stop it. Stop it. Oh, so the pain in his heart, is it where Shilian was hit with the stake from Lan Chu? Oh, Shilian was taken aback as he recalled Hua Chong's face when he fainted from the pain, and then Hua Chong's face when his expression scrunched in his pain at his approach. Shilian's breath hitched. His face paled as another wave of torment tore violently at his heart. Feng Shin and Muqing both stared at him. Dumbfounded, Feng Shin asked, didn't the Crimson Rainsop flower leave? Why is he still in pain? But Muqing was sharper and asked Shilian, what were you just thinking about? Were you thinking about him again? Shilian clenched his teeth, and it was a long while before he could manage. What? How could I never not think about him? Stop it, Muqing said. Your fits are getting worse. The more you think about him, the more you suffer. Let me pour you a cup of water. Shilian didn't even have the energy to shake his head and tell Muqing not to bother. When Muqing left, he closed his eyes and tried to recover a calm state of mind. However, the calmer he tried to be, the more worried he became. He had no idea what sort of evil thing had seized him, and neither he nor Hua Chong had noticed anything was wrong. He was afraid Hua Chong had gone out to search, alone and completely blind. Muqing brought the teapot over. It was an exquisite snow-white piece that made Shilian recall how Hua Chong had used it the night before. His face again went white, and he lay there flat and unspeaking. At the sight of him, Muqing knew that his mind had flown off again. Wearing a dark expression, he scolded, why does every little thing make you think of him? Do you want to die? It's not like I can control it, Shilian complained. If one really could stop thinking about a person simply by declaring they would, then most of the world's mortal troubles and suffering wouldn't exist. Might as well knock him out, the way I see it, Muqing said. Save him from his own wandering mind. But as Shilian's former servant, Feng Shin would never hit Shilian. And he would never allow anyone to hit Shilian in front of him either. No, Feng Shin said immediately, refusing. I think you should talk to him more, distract him. That way he won't keep thinking about the Crimson Rainsop flower. What can I even say, Muqing retorted. He thinks of the Crimson Rainsop flower regardless of whatever the actual topic might be. Knocking him out is the most straightforward option. Well, you can't hit him, Feng Shin exclaimed. How about this? He can't possibly have the mind to think about anything else if we train idioms, right? I guarantee he won't have the time. I'll go first. Live as long as Non-Mountain. He absolutely hated this game and gritted his teeth as he started it with enormous effort. Muqing hated the game even more, but still, he continued with utmost reluctance. Mountain, poor, and water, evil. Shilian had no choice, so he weakly continued, evil purple overtakes vermilion. But before he could finish, he huddled into himself again. Muqing was incredulous. How did you manage to think of him because of that? There's no thread of connection whatsoever. How is there no thread? Shilian thought. Vermilion, vermilion, red robes, red robes. How could he not think of Hua Chong when he thought of red robes? He couldn't take the torment anymore. With fierce effort, he wrestled free of the two holding him down and rolled off the bed with a thud. Feng Shin and Muqing both knew how powerfully his strength could explode in an instant, and he had secretly conserved their own strength just in case, but they still couldn't suppress him. They rushed to stop him when he struggled free, but were both smacked to the ground. Muqing raised his head only to see Shilian run out the door. Where are you going? Don't run off! But Shi Lian was almost at his limit. He finished 2 exquisite dice from his sleeve and rolled them, stumbling as he threw himself at the door. Hua Chong had said that if Shi Lian ever wanted to see him, he would be able to no matter what number he rolled. Shi Lian didn't know where the dice would take him, but his door pounce and subsequent stumble sent him falling into someone's chest. "Your Highness!" came Hua Chong's dumbfounded voice from just above his head. Shi Lian flung his arms around him frantically, afraid that Hua Chong would disappear again. "So long, don't go alone. We eat together." Hua Chong wanted to embrace him then and there, but his arms froze in midair and he forced himself to hold back. "Your Highness, hurry back home." Hua Chong chided, his voice grave. "You'll be in a lot of pain if you don't." Crimson Rain sought Flower. The supreme ghost king, feared by all the denizens of the 3 realms, was at a loss for what to do in the face of Shi Lian's condition. He couldn't hold him, nor could he refuse to. An embrace caused pain, but pushing him away caused even greater agony. Shi Lian gritted his teeth and hugged him tighter. "Then so be it," he cried, with a trembling voice. "Your Highness!" exclaimed Hua Chong. Shi Lian would rather die of pain while holding Hua Chong close than die of pain while thinking of Hua Chong all alone. The more it hurt, the harder he hugged. Face covered with fine beads of sweat, Shi Lian said in a staggered, broken voice, Wait for a moment, just for a moment. I'll be all right in a minute. I'll get used to this in a minute." "I'm very good at bearing pain. If you're by my side, I can stand it. If you're gone, then it'll hurt unbearably." Hua Chong stilled when he heard this, completely shocked. It was a moment before he said in a low voice, "Oh, Your Highness." His voice came out like a sigh, an agonized hiss, as if he was being tormented even worse than Shi Lian. Which, yeah, the last thing he wants is to hurt Shi Lian, and then this entire situation pops up. Shi Lian held him hard, waiting for the wave of pain to pass. When he tried to calm his breathing, he suddenly heard a voice behind. "Did you forge that by smelting your mask?" Amid his dizziness and blurred vision, Shi Lian finally noticed that they were in a gloomy and desolate graveyard. It was a site known as the State Preceptor's Tomb, one that he visited days before. There was someone else here standing behind them, a tall, strapping young man. It was Lan Chuan-Chu. Shi Lian was already delirious when he made it there, so naturally he didn't notice the third person presence. So Lan Chuan-Chu just witnessed all of that. Yeah, now that he didn't have the presence of mind to feel embarrassed. Just then Feng Shen and Mu Qing caught up with them. After getting smacked to the ground so hard he'd be unable to rise, Mu Qing was so furious the veins bulging his forehead might never disappear again. "Why did you run off?" he barked. "2 people and 4 hands can't even keep you down. And what the hell is this place? It looks like a graveyard or something." Feng Shen surveyed the area. "I think this is a graveyard. And one that's been dug up too. Is this the tomb of the State Preceptor Feng Shen? Why is His Highness Tai Hua here?" "I heard there was suspicious activity at the State Preceptor's tomb the day before, like a grave robber had visited," Lan Chuan-Chu replied, in an ill temper, "so I came to take a look." And he wound up bumping into Hua Chong and Shi Lian in the process. Something was on his mind, and he wasn't in the mood to offer pleasantries or give explanations. "Did you forge that longevity lock using your silver mask?" he asked again, staring at Shi Lian. "Did you come back here the day before yesterday to take it?" Shi Lian hesitated for a moment and then nodded. When he took the position of State Preceptor in the Kingdom of Yong'an, he wore a silver mask year-round. The mask was made with a rare type of metal. It was forged from half a caddy, a measurement of weight, usually 300 grams, of silver yao. Aside from hiding one's face, it was more extraordinarily used with its ability to reflect magic and shield the wearer's body and life. After State Preceptor Feng Shen died, the mask was placed inside the same coffin as a burial effect. A present must be something that the giver cherishes. After racking his brain, Shi Lian finally remembered that he had once possessed that unique treasure. It was incredibly useful and had helped him on multiple occasions. The mask was something he had hated to part with, as he hadn't managed to bring it with him when he dug himself out of the coffin. Oh! Thus, he traveled through the night to the tomb of the State Preceptor Feng Shen, dug up his own grave and unearthed the mask. And he melted it into silver liquid and reforged it as a longevity lock. Well, why would you pick that? Those were clearly terrible times in your life. Why would you pick that mask just because it was something you were interested in? Shi Lian! Everyone was wearing odd expressions. No one had ever visited this tomb of the State Preceptor Feng Shen to pay their respects. Shilian didn't even bother to sweep his own grave when he came back, and the weeds had grown over a meter tall. He'd even desecrated it by digging it up. There was honestly no one else who could have done something like this. The awkward silence lasted for a moment. When he saw Long Chunshu's strange expression, Shilian finally spoke up and explained, "The mask wasn't taken from your family. It was refined from a silver Yao that I'd once subdued." Had it been something that had belonged to the royal clan of Yong'an, he never would have considered making Hua Chong's birthday present out of it. He also hadn't known that Lan Chunshu was still keeping an eye on the state preceptor's tomb. He'd been under the impression that Lan Chunshu had stopped caring after he buried him. Otherwise, he would have at least refilled the burial plot to keep Lan Chunshu from being alerted and coming to check. Lan Chunshu was taken aback and he immediately got angry. "I wasn't going to fuss about that!" Hua Chong shot him a chilling stare, and Long Chunshu's expression hardened. Shilian, meanwhile, frowned as he looked at the silver lock like something had occurred to him. His eyes met Lan Chunshu's, and he discovered they were likely coming to a similar conclusion. Hua Chong, of course, would not have missed this exchange. "Is there a problem with the longevity lock?" he asked. "Your Highness, have you figured it out?" Shilian did have some idea as to what had happened, but he didn't know how to say it. With a grim face, Lan Chunshu spoke for him. "The problem is him," he said. "What do you mean?" Hua Chong demanded coldly. "Chunshu," Shilian said quickly. Lan Chunshu glanced at him but continued nonetheless. "After the gilded banquet, I was the one who brought him here." "Don't say any more," Shilian said. Lan Chunshu glanced at him again and shut up. He probably didn't know how to explain what came afterwards, but even though he didn't continue, the others could piece it together themselves. After the gilded banquet incident, the Crown Prince of Yong'an, Lan Chunshu, seized the state preceptor Fang Xin. In an act of revenge, Lan Chunshu drove a thick wooden nail into his heart and sealed him in the coffin and buried the coffin in the wilderness and forbade anyone from mourning or paying their respects. Not that anyone would have in the first place. We're going to talk about this. Shilian's heart was pierced by the peachwood nail, and the blood that flowed from the wound dyed the silver mask in the coffin red. Thanks to its unique properties, the silver Yao's lingering qi absorbed the blood and maintained its vitality even after it left Shilian's body. When Shilian returned 2 days ago and dug up the own grave to retrieve the mask from the silver Yao, to forge the longevity lock, he had roused the remnant blood on the mask, which took the opportunity to re-enter his body. No wonder they couldn't find anything amiss, even when Shilian and Hua Chong both examined the body repeatedly. It was because the thing causing the problem originated from his own blood. Of course there was nothing to amiss about that. Hua Chong made a move, and although Shilian couldn't see his face, he quickly held him back. "Oh, so long," he cried. "Oh, yeah, Lan Chunshu had killed him for revenge. And Yong'an's old king had certainly died at Shilian's hand. Nailing Shilian into the coffin was an eye for an eye, and another wave of excruciating pain washed over him. Shilian gasped a few more times and groaned aloud despite himself. Desperate concern blazed in Hua Chong's expression went more. "Your Highness." I can't believe the Donghua spoiled this. I was like, why? Because we never saw that in the novel. That's so frustrating. We never saw this in the novel, so this whole thing is from the extra of Shilian getting nailed into the coffin. Donghua, why are you spoiling this stuff? Come on. This would have had a much bigger impact had I not known this was the case, but now I'm like, oh, well, there's that. How dare you, Donghua? I lose faith in the Donghua a little bit with moments like this, and I'm glad that I'm novel first so that these moments aren't spoiled to me, but how dare, right? Lan Chunshu hesitated briefly at the sight of Shilian's face, which was as white as a sheet. Do you need my help? Shilian knew what Lan Chunshu was like and what he might think. No, it's fine, Chunshu. There's no need. This has nothing to do with you. It's not your problem. I'm the one who wasn't careful. You can leave it be. Muqing could see that Lan Chunshu was in a very awkward position, being both a victim and a murderer. That's right, Your Highness Taiwa. You can leave him to it. Go back. After a brief silence, Lan Chunshu replied, all right. Despite his answer, he still didn't leave. The group didn't have time for him, though, because Shilian was writhing in pain again. Yet even so, he held on to Hua Chong with a death grip and refused to let go. Let's resolve things first, Feng Xin cried. Your Highness, what's wrong? Shilian was still thrashing, but he suddenly calmed when a crisp, cracking voice rang out. His head drenched in a cold sweat, he lay still and silent in Hua Chong's arms. Hua Chong returned his unyielding embrace in equal measure. It's done, Your Highness. It doesn't hurt anymore, right? It was only then the group realized that Hua Chong was holding a handful of shimmering silver powder. I was going to say, you have to destroy the longevity lock. As for the longevity lock that had been kept so precious and close to his heart, it was gone. With the longevity lock destroyed, the wisp of blood in Shilian's heart that had been tainted by the Yao's chi would slowly calm on its own. And thus Hua Chong had gripped his gift in his fist and shattered it with a light squeeze. Shilian's breathing slowed and calmed. As he turned his head, he saw the silver scattering and flowing from Hua Chong's fingertips. Then his eyes met Hua Chong's. For some reason, he felt another tiny wave of heartache. Yeah, it doesn't hurt anymore. But it's so sad because it was his gift. He had made this gift and forged it for Hua Chong, but didn't realize that this blood from when Lan Chunshu killed him in quotation marks, would tainted it. So of course he's sad. He's like, the one gift I was able to give you was the one thing causing me and you pain, and now you had to destroy it. With the curse broke at last, Shilian bade farewell to Feng Xin, Mu Qing, and Lan Chunshu. Then he slowly headed back towards the ghost city with Hua Chong. They walked side by side, and Shilian's face stayed hot the entire way, which was Feng Xin and Mu Qing's fault. Before the group had gone their separate ways, Feng Xin couldn't resist asking as he wiped away his sweat, "So why did Your Highness react like that at the sight of the Crimson Rain Sought flower? What was with that blood in his heart? Did it want to mess with him on purpose?" Shilian already understood what had happened, and when he heard the question, he replied quickly, "Well, let's not look deeper into it." "Why not?" Feng Xin asked, confused. "What if it happens again? We need to get to the bottom of it, right?" Mu Qing humphed. "You can't figure even that out? That blood was outside of his system for way too many years. It needed to reacclimate after returning. Since it didn't have the chance to, of course it caused a stir. If his heart had been calm like still water, his mind as rippleless as an ancient well, it wouldn't have mattered. But with a restless heart, a single stirring would cause the blood to roil relentlessly. He would thus be stricken with unbearable agony and endlessly relive the pain of the peachwood nail piercing his heart." When all that had been revealed, Shilian didn't dare look at Hua Chong. He was quite certain he'd lost every ounce of dignity to his name, now and forever going forward. Didn't this mean he'd been rolling around in agony because every glance of Hua Chong, every thought of him made Shilian's heart go wild? Even as he considered it, his heart started racing once again. Thankfully, it wouldn't hurt anymore, no matter how fast it raced. Hua Chong, who had been silent for a long time, spoke abruptly. "Your Highness." "Yes," Shilian answered immediately. "How long did you stay in that coffin?" Shilian blinked at the question. "I don't remember." He just knew it had been a long, long time. So long he didn't want to count the years. There was pain, blood loss, hunger, hallucinations. At first he didn't even try to move a muscle, but later he felt regret despite himself at pounding wildly at the coffin lid, desperate to break out. In the end, he allowed himself to sink into the boundless darkness once more. It wasn't the same kind of pain he experienced when he suffered 100 stabs from a sword, a pain that made him sure he was doomed to eternal hell. Instead, it was a dull throb that went on and on without end. He let out a sigh. "What is it, Your Highness?" Hua Chong asked immediately. "Does it still hurt?" Shilian shook his head. A moment later, he remembered, "I'm sorry, San Long." Hua Chong was puzzled. "Why are you apologizing to me?" After some hesitation, Shilian said, "Today is your birthday. I wanted to make it a good day for you, but instead we spent the whole time stressed and trying to break that curse." He had planned on bearing the pain at least until Hua Chong's birthday was over, but he hadn't even been able to hang on. "Even the present I gave you had to be destroyed," Shilian said. And it was Hua Chong who had crushed it himself, no less. From beginning to end, today was a horrible ordeal. Shilian was extremely depressed, and it was hard to imagine how Hua Chong must felt. Hua Chong stopped walking. "Your Highness," he said, his voice gentle, "you've already given me a present today." "What?" Shilian blinked. "Please don't say you're the best present or something," Shilian thought. That'd only mortify him even more. Hua Chong gazed at him and smiled. "Your Highness, you said that you wanted to see me even if it hurt you, that you didn't want to part even when it caused you so much pain." That made me really happy. Hua Chong finished, his voice low. Recalling what a tragic sight that he'd been when he said that to Hua Chong, Shilian cleared his throat softly and covered his face, trying desperately to act natural. However, Hua Chong suddenly pulled him into a fierce and firm embrace. Startled, Shilian allowed himself to be pressed against his faintly beating chest. He heard Hua Chong say in an even lower voice, "It's true. I'm really happy." Me too, Shilian thought. I'm really happy too. Over the endless centuries, no matter how painful it got, Hua Chong had never even considered giving up on him. It was Shilian who had discovered that fact and who was truly the happiest. They embraced each other tightly. That being said, happy as I am, I never want you to have to bear that sort of pain ever again, said Hua Chong. Yeah, I'm sure that Hua Chong's like, we both you and I, we're willing to go to the ends of the earth for each other and to protect each other no matter what, and to be with each other no matter how much pain is facing both of us. And that would make you happy, but he's like, I don't ever want you to do that again, so no. So damn! So we don't really get to know how long Shilian was in the coffin or how he got out, just that he eventually got out. Like, eventually he was able to crawl out of the tomb, like the sides collapsed or something. He eventually was able to get out. Ugh. Nope. I don't want to think about Shilian dissolving and then being reborn and regenerating himself. I don't want to think about that, so let's just move on. The two of them returned to the ghost city. The ghosts had been worried all day, so at the sight of the couple's safe return, they immediately turned into a riotous chaos and boisterous celebration. As usual, Hua Chong couldn't be bothered to comment. He just entered the Thousand Lights Temple along Shilian. As soon as they were inside, they discovered a whole host of new items had been added to the temple's hoard. Well, who put these here? Hua Chong demanded. Shilian picked up the items one by one, but they seemed to be gift boxes. This one's from the Lord Rainmaster, I think. Oh, such fresh vegetables. And this one's from Qingshang, it seems. And this one must be from General Pei. He counted the presents, growing even more delighted as he went. Oh, Sanlong, congratulations. These are everyone's birthday gifts to the Lord Ghost King, he said with a happy smile. I want to see their presents now. He'd spent the past days like a man possessed, asking everyone he could find what he should give someone for a birthday present. And although he hadn't specified the recipient, there probably wasn't a single person who couldn't guess. Hua Chong, however, had no interest in the gifts whatsoever. Stop looking at them, Gege, he said. I'll throw them all out later. They take up space. He looked as though he was seriously going to call for someone to chuck the presents, so Shilian hurriedly said, let's not do that. At the very least, let's represent everyone's well wishes. Oh, wait, why is this here? Who gave you this? The love potion and the childbearing pill were mixed in with the serious gifts. Shocked, he tossed them aside like they were a hot potato, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Hua Chong seemed rather interested, however, and was ready to grab them and take a peek. What's this? Shilian quickly stopped him. Oh, nothing good! Don't look! He kept that. I'm sure he kept those pills. I'm sure the potion, whatever, but the pills? MXTX, you sly dog. You sly dog! After much internal conflict, Shilian gave Hua Chong the belt that he had personally made to him at the very beginning as a replacement for the longevity lock. When Hua Chong saw it, he laughed so hard he almost couldn't breathe, though Ghost didn't need to breathe in the first place. In any case, he wrapped his arms around Shilian and kissed him for a long while, complimenting him nonstop. He laid it on so thick that Shilian was embarrassed enough to lie flat on the bed and pretend to be dead. Ah! I want to see this! I want to see a drawing of this and just be like, nope, I can't. I'm done. Shilian, like, ghost leaving body, spirit leaving the body. Oh, I want to see this. And Shilian wanted to pretend to be dead even more when the next morning, Hua Chong actually put the thing on, and he was fully prepared to head out wearing it, acting like it was all normal. Of course he would! Of course he would! Shilian nearly fainted when he saw and rolled off the bed at once to tackle the Ghost King. He begged and pleaded for a long time before Hua Chong very reluctantly agreed to wear it reversed, hiding the side showing the embroidered pattern. This was how Shilian narrowly escaped having his handiwork publicly shamed. As for the consequences of that fateful day, Hua Chong had caused such an uproar about Shilian's condition that everyone from the heavens above to the earth below knew that Shilian had fainted on the Ghost King's birthday. And once the full story got out, everyone from the heavens above to the earth below learned that Shilian was truly head over heels. He was absolutely, totally in love with the Crimson Rain sought flower. But that was a story for another time. Oh my God! Ah! Finished. Oh my God. Oh! Ah! Well, we need to look at some gifts, and I need to bring out Whiteboard Coon real quick. Okay, so we still have some things to go. What a chapter! I was like, oh my God, this whole chapter was heartbreaking and beautiful and just cements Shilian and Hua Chong's relationship with one another, and I love it, and my dogs hate me because I'm not playing with them, but, so, we have a couple things. I want to talk about this board briefly, and then we have our stack of goodies that we have yet to look at, and then, I just briefly got on the Discord for a hot second, and Reiki was like, so, I know that you're gonna wait, and as you're going through the audio dramas, encounter the edits that MXTX has made to the story, as they were revising. However, they did say there was an extra chapter that was released that is just an extra chapter. It's not really a part of the main story and the edits and all that. It's just an extra chapter. And I was like, okay, I would like to look at that, right? Definitely. I would like to look at that and read it with you all, since it's the end of the novel, right? And not have to wait on the other materials that will come to as we get to the audio drama. So, with that in mind, we are going to read that chapter. Don't you worry. My internet is still out, so I'm going to read it from my phone because I can't get on the internet to download it. So we're going to do that, and then look at the extra goodies that came with this lovely special edition that we had as well. But before we start that, though, I want to talk briefly about what's up here. We now can erase Mei Nianqing. We know that they are in Mount Tonglu, watching over Junwoo, making sure they don't get out forever. And playing cards. It's sad. I wish that Mei Nianqing could play cards with Junwoo. Maybe one day. Maybe one day we'll get that. We'll just leave that open to interpretation. It almost feels like MXTX is punishing him for not staying by Junwoo's side, being like, well, now you have to stay by his side forever. And it's like, oh God. It felt very much like I won't say which character, because if you've not read Mode Azushi, that would be a major spoiler. But there are a couple characters in Mode Azushi whose endings are very ambiguous, and they almost seem like punishments for what they did. And I was like, oh shit. So there's that. Not the main characters, of course, but you know. The Banyu puppet? Never gonna find out, huh? Not gonna tell us, huh? I don't want to know, because I think that answer is gonna come out in the edits. Now, if any of you have read the edits to the entirety of the new version and it's never said there, then maybe it's never supposed to be known. Maybe we're not supposed to know who sent the puppet, but I feel like the edits are going to reveal it, right? My poor dog. I feel like the edits are going to reveal it, though, to us, so I'm going to wait and hear if the audio drama reveals that, so we'll wait on that. Heshan and the I feel so bad about Beef Leaf. Beef Leaf, am I right? Just a sad, sad day, you know? Just Beef Leaf. I hate it. It sucks. Now, the fetus spirit origin, we don't really get that examined either. I mean, we get a little bit of closure on Beef Leaf, I guess, with that last chapter, 244, but it would have been nice to get more, but alas, MXTX is like, write fanfiction. The fetus spirit origin, I feel like it's explained enough to where we can be okay with knowing, you know, it's Function's child. Whatever happened. It's maybe Junwoo's fault. Who knows? Wasn't Mu Qing's fault. Can't blame Mu Qing for this one, right? It's kind of funny because thinking back on it, the fetus spirit not liking Mu Qing could be like a representation of it being Function's child, because Function and Mu Qing fight so much. Maybe that's it. And then Qirong returning, we just leave that ambiguous as well. Maybe Qirong will return since Guzi loves him so much, just like Hua Chong returned to Shilian. Who knows? And then I guess we're never finding out about the Thunder Master. Thunder Master is the Ringo Starr of the Elemental Masters. I liked Anime Annie's portrayal of them just sitting there drumming and being like, hey, everybody, peace. And all the other Elemental Masters are just losing it behind him. You know, like you do. So I'm obviously going to erase Whiteboard Coon so I can utilize this whiteboard for future series. But those 4 questions I will stay in my mind until we do the live stream. And then we can talk about them in the live stream if the additional material doesn't answer that question for us. So that's a fun time. But the Banyu puppet thing aggravates me. Like, I can deal with the fetus spirit origin because we have enough of a lead to kind of know and fill in the pieces. The Chi-Rong coming back, we can, you know, piece together our own interpretation of that. The Thunder Master, they were just a side character, so that part doesn't bother me, but they specifically said in the story, oh, the Banyu puppet, oh, well, let's not worry about that for now. I was like, you can't just abandon that and not bring it back up. MXTX. Come on now. Even a simple answer would work. A simple answer would work. But if the new edits are going to reveal that answer, I don't want to know yet. But if they're not ever going to give us an answer, I'm like, oh. Or if I just missed it, I'm like, oh, how dare you? So anyway. But that's all we'll leave for now. So before we read this extra chapter, let's look at the goodies that we got, because I feel like the extra chapter is going to be the little cherry on top of our cake. So again, I've had this little pile sitting just like this. This was the back of the book and all of that. Yes. And then I have never gotten a chance to read the back covers of these books, and I'm going to go back and read them, which is fun. But let's take this off and see what we get. Oh, is this a poster? This is a poster. I thought it was just a piece of paper. Oh, no big deal. No big deal. Just look at that shit. Yes, look at that. Look at that. Oh, okay. Hua Chong with the red leaves and the braid going down his face there. Look at that. And the pearl tied in. Hua Chong with the braid is beautiful. Oh my God. I love that. And then, and the string tied around their hands. I love these robes that Shilian is wearing. And there's like a little clip, a butterfly clip with another ribbon that's attached to him there that wraps around. This is gorgeous. I would frame this. This is beautiful. Oh, yes, please. Yes, please. And then we have this little book, a bookmark, if you will. Nice. Oh, it seems like you can like pull it back and maybe make something with it where it sits up. Okay. Oh, nice. It's a postcard of the cover for volume. Which one is it? Volume 5. Volume 5's cover. Get that one. Stickers. Yes. Hello, stickers. Oh, those are so cute. Look at them. There's a Ming and there's, oh my God, there's a Chi-Rong one with Goozy. Yes. Yes. And the Windmaster and the Blackwater, the ferret and fox versions of them, Mu Ching and Feng Xin. Oh, and a Ming. How adorable. I love it. I love that Goozy gets to be there with Chi-Rong. That is so cute. Yes, please. Oh, nice. We have each of the postcards. The covers of the volumes are postcards, which is super cute. I like also that there's on the back, like on this one, there's Shilian as a ferret holding Hua Chong as the fox, which is super cute. And then here you have the little thread connecting them, and Hua Chong as the fox with Shilian hugging him as the ferret. Adorable. Oh, I like this bookmark where it shows Hua Chong and Shilian from there with the little flower. And then them as adults. Yes, please. I love me a good bookmark. I love this one. And then them as the in the pool. That's so cute. Love that. Oh, the final one. Yes. And them together. So domestic. That is so cute. I love these so much. Oh, what is this? Oh, that's what the book is for. Okay. So there is this little pop-up that shows this pop-up that you have here with all of them there. Okay. And okay, so this is kind of interesting. I'm going to try to see if I get this right. I want to see if I can fit it in properly. Let me see if I can get this to fit right. Maybe. Okay, this needs to fit down into that. I'm going to figure this all out, but how does this even work? I'm not good with this sort of thing. Okay. Somehow this all fits together. I think this is how it goes. There we go. Okay. Maybe, possibly. I feel like you're all like, get on with it. Okay. Okay, so there is a way to make this work, and I'm going to figure that out, but it's really cute. It has them, like, as the ferret and the fox, and it shows them, like, going on their journey, which is super cute. Nice. Okay, we'll figure that out. And then, yeah, give us that one. Nice. That postcard. And then it's them at the calligraphy lesson. That's super cute. Ooh, I like the volume 1 cover one. That one's really super pretty. And then them in the forest together. Yes. That one. Oh, and look at Sheila-Ann as the ferret with the dress, rescuing the little bandaged up baby fox. That's so cute. And then volume. Oh, this one for volume 7. The back. Sheila-Ann as the bandaged up little ferret with the ghost fire. Shut up. Shut up. Stop it. Okay. So then there's some more here. Oh, that says like a sticky on it. Ooh. Okay. And then, oh, is this another poster, perhaps? Mayhaps? Methinks? Oh, wow. Look at that. Oh, there's, oh my gosh. Maenyan Ching is freaking hot. Maenyan Ching is the hottest old man in the world. Old man Yowie. Look at how beautiful. Maenyan Ching is gorgeous. Look at that. Absolutely stunning. I'm like, June Woo, get on that. What are you doing? And then, yeah, Sheila-Ann. And then there's little Hong Er. And then Mu Ching and Feng Shin. Wow, that's beautiful. I love that. And Sheila-Ann all bright-eyed and rosy-cheeked. And Maenyan Ching looking off in the distance being like, don't think about Junwoo. Don't think about Junwoo. That's really good. And so then, yeah. Then we have the last thing on here. If I get the... Ooh, is this just a notebook, perhaps? Get the glue and stuff off of here. Get my stickies off. I believe it is. Wow. This little notebook has Sheila-Ann on one side with the cry smiling mask. And then on the other side, oh, is Hua Chong with Wu Ming's mask. Look at that. Oh my God. Yep. And the thread connecting them. Ah! I love all of these extras. These were all really, really good. I'm going to put that diorama. The postcards are beautiful. That one poster is gorgeous and will likely have to be framed. So beautiful, right? Oh my God. So yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to get back to this last chapter now. And go from there. So we had 16 pages long. We're going to read this lovely chapter from my phone because why not? The Ghost King Dressed Down. An extra, you say? Okay. Make sure my mic is there. You can all hear me good. All right. Let's do this. Our final chapter for now, right? It's all because Sheila-Ann woke up before Hua Chong today. After 800 years of experience, you could say he was a person whose livelihood hinged on laboring from dawn to dusk. After all, when it comes to scrap collecting trade, the early bird gets the worm. But ghosts are ghosts after all and don't need to sleep, so Hua Chong usually woke up earlier than him. At times, Sheila-Ann felt like he might have been woken by his stare. Sometimes the moment he opened his eyes, he would see Hua Chong was already awake, eye unmoving, watching him. When they made eye contact, that face would split open with a grin and softly wish him good morning, seemingly staying up all night waiting from beginning to end for the moment he awoke just to be the first person to greet him that day. Quit inventing romance, MXTX. Just stop. But on this unusual day, Sheila-Ann slept lightly, and the gloaming sky had yet to brighten when he opened his eyes. When he moved, Hua Chong seemed to detect that he had woken up and moved too. Sheila-Ann rubbed his eyes, tilted his head to look, and couldn't look away. Oh. Oh no. It was a Hua Chong that he had never seen before. He had one cheek propped on his hand, lying on his side, the collar of his red clothes spaciously opened, sluggishly lethargic, like a peerlessly beautiful mountain spirit or fox demon from a fairy tale, with freshly combed, beautiful, brilliant fur and tail, wrapped in a red nest of rich Tibetan incense, arousing desperate hunger for a period of pure bliss. What? Hua Chong wasn't wearing his eye patch, and the eyelid drooped a little without looking hollow. His bright features were softened by the drowsiness that muted his dashing spirit. His pitch-black long hair was gathered to one side, faintly mussed, fluffy and soft. It was San Long with sleep. He's got bedhead! Yeah, Shilian thought to himself. This tableau seemed some kind of enticing spell that sucked in all attention and left one breathless. The more Shilian looked, the more bewitched he was. He couldn't bear not to draw near, and his face helplessly crept closer and closer. At exactly that moment, Hua Chong's eyelashes trembled and his eye opened. Seeing Shilian as soon as his eye opened, his first reaction was a soft smile. Gege, morning. When Hua Chong smiled, Shilian's eyes brightened. He nodded his head like a chick pecking at rice. Well, so long, good morning. Hua Chong was about to continue, but something suddenly came over him. His face suddenly changed color, and abruptly he sat up. Shilian was spooked by this and sat back. What's wrong? Hua Chong said, I. His pupil violently contracted and covered half his face. With the other half of his face lightly covered by his long hair, it was another kind of frantic beauty. But his right hand was raised in a distancing posture. Shilian suddenly blanked, not understanding what happened. Did I mess up? Did I startle you? Oh, in a vacuum, a ghost king obviously wouldn't get startled, but this reaction, however you looked at it, could only be called turning pale with fright. Hua Chong sharply declined, No, it's nothing to do with your highness. After saying that, he immediately jumped out of bed and rushed out. Wait, San Long! But Hua Chong had long rushed out of sight. Shilian had indescribable feelings, and without even putting on his shoes, he carelessly gathered up his hair and rushed after him. He's like, put his hair up and go after him. Around Paradise Manor, the ground that wasn't covered with soft snow-white demon fur was paved in a red brocade carpet. It was all because at some point in the last 800 years, Hua Chong had heard a rumor that he liked running around without shoes, so one day he paved the mansion floor like this. Oh, so the Shilian wouldn't have to run on like cold floor, right? He even tried to play it off by saying that he could sit or recline at any time or place. Who could have thought it would actually come in handy? In short, Shilian stomped around barefoot, passing between the vermilion tower red wall, and even searching all morning, he still couldn't find Hua Chong. Helplessly, he had no choice but to turn back, timidly put on his clothes and shoes, and prepare to go out to mobilize the ghost market to find the missing person. That ghost market crowd naturally liked to spectate and didn't mind major trouble, so Shilian only had to say the word and they immediately beat drums and gongs and lit up lanterns, wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves and making a terrible racket. But after hollering for a good span of time, they only got scared that even the court of heaven would be deafened. And still Hua Chong hadn't been drawn out to scowl coldly and tell them to scram. So Shilian was even more worried. Not long ago, when Hua Chong had just returned to the Thousand Lanterns Temple, it was hard for Shilian to avoid worrying about another accident, developing a fear that the moment he wasn't careful, Hua Chong would disappear again. His imagination kept running wild. Could it be that I inadvertently did something this morning that offended San Long? Although he felt that Hua Chong wouldn't have this kind of impetuous temper, he didn't dare to be certain. Everyone has times when they're angry. Even rabbits bite people when they're anxious. But even after a long period of serious introspection, he couldn't figure out what the problem could be. Fortunately, Hua Chong appeared not long after. Shilian followed the Zhongshan River, running so close along the riverbanks that the carp in the river swam alongside him. These fish were extremely pretty, red ones, gold ones, silver ones, patterned ones. They looked like big slices of lovely multicolored clouds in the water, fluttering along behind Shilian. Shilian randomly stopped and asked them, "Excuse me, have you seen Hua Chong? Hua Chongzu?" Unexpectedly, one of the redfish nodded its head and scurried forward like an arrow, seemingly pointing the way for him. When Shilian raised his head to look, he only saw the curtained branches of the green willow tree up ahead, and a red cloth person holding an umbrella whimsically floated down from it, and a faraway voice called out, "Gege, are you looking for me?" When Shilian heard his voice, his heart relaxed at first, but when he looked again, he blinked. Trailing a small meandering road of fresh flowers beside his feet, Huachong slowly stepped over, but it was actually the youthful Huachong's appearance. In fact, it wasn't even the same youthful appearance. When he changed into a youth before, his naked face had no makeup, and he didn't wear any silver ornaments. His hair wasn't combed either, just randomly tied crooked. Overall, it was several degrees of natural beauty without a trace of fearlessness. Today, it was a meticulously decorated youthful appearance. Hair properly combed, red clothes tastefully embroidered with a pattern of silver butterflies, a silver belt engraved with countless ghosts and demons. Even the edges of the red umbrella were hung with dangling crystal raindrops. What a glamorous and beautiful young noble, exceedingly and extremely dignified. Shilian gazed at him, astoundingly handsome, and couldn't help but look again. Like this, he took in an eyeful after eyeful, and the more he looked, the more he felt his eyes couldn't see enough. As Huachong came over, he thoughtfully moved his umbrella over Shilian's head, smiling like nothing had happened this morning. "The sun is so strong, isn't Gege hot? I'll shade you." At such a proximity, looking at such a beauty, Shilian felt even more oppressive feelings. He couldn't help but briefly waver his gaze and to avoid him pressing over that threatening edge. It was a long time before he could tactfully say, "Sanlong, are you okay?" Huachong casually cast 2 pieces of small fish bait. The fish in the river eagerly swam over to compete over the food, pouting their lips in wild kisses. He laughed out loud and said, well, for what reason does Gege ask such a question? How would I not be okay?" He said nothing, understanding plainly that Huachong didn't want to continue this conversation. Seeing that his expression didn't look unusual, Shilian couldn't keep asking after this. Best to swallow it down for the time being. Swallow it down for the time being, huh? He decided to wait for a few days before finding the chance to ask about it again. Two people watched the John Chan River, sometimes carelessly feeding the fish. After all the fish food had been eaten, the fish were still reluctant to leave, so Huachong rudely threw a rock and the fish were finally scattered from fright. Although the crying sounds they made were unpleasant, like a 50-year-old overweight newborn crying, Shilian was still full of sympathy for them. Soon afterwards, Huachong revealed to Shilian some of the calligraphy he had been practicing. Not bad, so this is how he explained where he ran off to just now. Actually, the writing style on these pages was really sincere, and the 2 or 3 out of 10 words could perhaps be guessed by their basic components, if one really tried. He's trying his best. By the time the sun had fully risen, Huachong was accompanying Shilian as he handled a stack of prayers, and they went to beat a nest of man-eating mantises. When the mantises were unwilling to surrender their souls of their victims, Shilian felt there wasn't any need to continue persuading them and decided to free the souls by force. But before he could unfurl Ruyi, Huachong had already sent his umbrella flying out. That crimson rain umbrella, how incredible. For some reason, Huachong was especially ruthless and decisive today. When it opened, it flew in circles and cut through bone as if it was a saber. When it closed, it became a spear and skewered countless ghosts and demons together. It opened and shut dramatically in Huachong's hand, and after killing everything in its circle, it spun in the air, raining down a burst of blood rain. And it flew back to its upright position, revealing a small portion of a peerlessly pretty face beneath its cover. It was sheathed in a movement as smooth and natural as flower water, like falling rain and flying petals, graceful and collected, seething with latent killing intent. Before Shilian even had the opportunity to act, Huachong was already standing calmly to one side, asking him, "Gege?" Huachong spun the red umbrella and said, "Gege, it's been settled. We're not leaving?" Shilian finally reacted, saying, "Yes, it's settled. Let's go then. Let's go look for those people's souls." But after a couple steps, he suddenly remembered something important and asked, Sanlong, your silver butterflies, were they here just now?" Huachong tilted his head to one side. "Oh, sorry. I didn't send them out. Is something wrong?" Out loud, Shilian insisted it was no big deal, but internally he thought it really was a shame. Why didn't you send them out? Shilin extremely loved this sort of thing. He and Hua Chong often enjoyed chatting about different fighting styles. Some people had a sedate fighting style, and although it's solid and reliable, it was like how you wouldn't consider water or white rice to be tasty. You'd often feel like it was really not showy enough, like you'd rather go with the flow or go home. Swift and fierce fighting styles are sharply different. They were extremely flashy and good for showing off stunts. Hua Chong actually combined both strengths. Stable enough while also ruthless enough. Steady but firm. But because he generally suppressed one side completely, there usually weren't any chances for him to show anything more. There was no way to really dazzle his target. When his opponents had already been slaughtered by his blood rain method, what was there left to show? It was only during the standoff against White No Face in Tonglu that Shilian was able to catch a glimpse of that elegant demeanor. Ah! But today, Hua Chong's style was completely different, as if he wanted to give Shilian a feast for the eyes. He didn't use his blood rain technique and only moved his hand, even suggesting a spicy, ruthless, cruel, and fierce intent. How could one man look so good? He had always possessed exceptional talent, and it was that young seeding bursting with potential that Shilian saw in him now. So dazzling it immediately left Shilian in a blank, enthusiastic daze. So right now his heart ached so much that he wanted it to twitch. Why weren't there any silver butterflies to record this scene of Hua Chong fighting? The fight had deserved to be slowly savored for times to come. He could have savored it for many years. That's what he wanted the butterflies for. He's like, I want you guys to record that so I can go back and watch it. As the two people returned to Paradise Lane, Shilling was still so dazed that he couldn't control himself, to such an extent that during the night, in their little two-person banquet, with pricelessly beautiful delicacies of all kinds as far as the eye could see, his brain was still spinning like a hurricane about Hua Chong's raised hand, the turn of his foot. He turned it over and over in his mind and suddenly realized that Hua Chong had been calling for him. Shilling returned to ask, "What?" Hua Chong looked pensive. Gege doesn't seem entirely present today. Are you feeling bored? Shilling put down his chopsticks. With San Long here, how could I be bored? He placed the chopsticks at random, and they bumped into the plate, making a particularly clear sound. Hua Chong said, then, is it that you're not used to the new set of utensils? Shilian took a look at the chopsticks he had just put down, and only then did he notice it was a pair of white jade chopsticks he had never seen before. If Hua Chong hadn't said so, he would never have noticed that they had been changed. Shilian said, astonished, well, that's not it either. Why do I remember them being changed a few days ago? Was that demonic ivory pair no good? Hua Chong said, but didn't Gege say later that elephant demons mostly had a docile disposition? I thought if Gege saw that while eating or thought about it later, he'd feel sorry for them, so I put them away. He had indeed said this before, but that was only something he thoughtlessly mentioned after idly chatting about some ghost people, and they happened to talk about elephant demons. Shilian wouldn't have talked at length about that set of utensils or made a fuss over something so small and gone against his kind intentions. Besides, it's not like Hua Chong went and beat up elephant demons just because he had nothing better to do. He had countless treasures on hand, just from offerings gifted to him from the Ghost City residents. He didn't realize that Hua Chong had not only listened to his offhand comment, but had took it to heart. Shilian felt unavoidably shy and held up a pair of the white jade chopsticks again, saying softly, San Long is so thoughtful. Yeah, stuff that Shilian thought was just like random conversation, Hua Chong had took it to heart. Hua Chong smiled and said, speaking of which, the pair of white jade chopsticks in Gege's hand was made from the jade bones of a 1,000-year-old jade spirit from the Kunlun Mountain. This marvelous jade has a natural lasting temperature, leaving a pleasant coolness in the mouth and hands. It doesn't harm the internal organs and also prolongs life, calms the mind, helps concentration, improves ability. Do you still want to use it? If it's still no good, we can change it again. Shilian said quickly, change what? Any chopsticks that can be used for eating are good chopsticks, but using a treasure like this as chopsticks, isn't that kind of... Hua Chong said indifferently, this Gege not need think about it. Treasures ought to be used, not displayed. If it's given to me, then it's mine, and I'll do whatever I want with it. Shilian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Even if he used to be the wealthy crown prince of a country, extravagant and magnificent, he still wasn't like Hua Chong to not give treasures even half their dignity like this. Thinking about it, he added, cultivating jade bones isn't easy. Why was someone willing to give this to you? Can Gege ask? Can Gege guess? Shilian said with a smile, don't tell me you beat them up. Huachong smiled, how could I? Does Gege take me for some kind of rotten egg? How could Sanlong randomly beat up people? It's a funny story. Even though it was a piece of natural uncut jade, it wanted to be carved maliciously, meticulously carved, cut, and polished. So it spent years searching the human world for a jade carving master, hoping to borrow a helping hand and eventually carve itself into a peerless object. Shilian said curiously, natural uncut jade, like a clear water lotus, wouldn't that have a natural beauty? Why go to the extra work of carving into it? Huachong said all people have aspirations. All demons have ranks. It felt that it had to go under a knife before it was beautiful, and wouldn't hear a word to the contrary. Its close friends were the Kunlun mountain spirits that had become sacred springs, and each day it looked at its reflection but couldn't admire itself. Anyway, in the end it finally chose a grandmaster that it was satisfied with. Was it really a grandmaster? Did they succeed? The grandmaster was truly a grandmaster, but it's regretful. Just as humans make mistakes, so can a horse stumble. Ah, Shilian said, and understood sympathetically. They disgraced their reputation? Mm-hmm. They carved it crooked. This seems like a analogy for Huachong, like Huachong not liking themselves and not feeling like they're worthy and searching for the right person to help carve their shape and make them whole. And it's Shilian, but then Shilian stumbles and makes mistakes and, falters too. It just seems like a big analogy for that, right? And then the carved it crooked kind of, it feels like a Ming, seems like the crooked ponytail. It seems to resemble. Even when a grandmaster accidentally slips a hand, the result would still be a grandmaster level masterpiece. But that 1,000-year-old jade spirit wouldn't think of it that way. It felt like heaven fell and earth cracked. 1,000 years of cultivation had become meaningless. It wanted to break itself apart and die in glory right then and there, but its Kunlun sacred spring friends stopped the plans it had made, saying, since you're like this now, not as good as us, just go find that legendary isolated ghost king, the Crimson Rain sought flower. They say that in the ghost city, there's no such thing as something that can't be bought or a person who can't be found. He's even had the nerve to strike heavenly officials. Maybe they can find a way to save you over there. Shilian smiled and said, so then it came to see you. Did you take a knife to it? Huachong tossed the white jade chopstick in his hand. I randomly took 2 knives to it. Saved it a bit. Shilian smiled. Well, this seems it was pretty satisfied with your work, or else it wouldn't have given you a section of its jade bones, as expected. When it comes to blades, no matter how they're used, Sanlong is the true grandmaster. I want to see what kind of form you've repaired it into. Huachong says if Gege wants to see it, naturally that's easy, but Gege still hasn't answered the question I asked earlier. Shilian was confused. What question? Huachong twirled a lock of his hair with his finger, saying in a seemingly casual way, how is it? Shilian was even more confused. How is what? Huachong looked at him, looking distinctly more sincere, and said, Gege, this form of mine, how is it? Oh my God, you just beat around the bush. I also like the fact that the jade coming to get carved by Huachong is kind of like Shilian coming to Huachong, like to fix himself, to heal himself, to make himself complete, Shilian suddenly realized what was happening. What Huachong had said must have been what he absentmindedly asked earlier. In that case, what did this form of mine, how is it mean? He must be asking, do I look good like this, right? Shilian said with unparalleled sincerity, oh, too good looking. I've never seen any person or ghost who looks as good as Sanlong. He thought about it, but added, but. Huachong immediately said, but what? Shilian was a little sheepish about it, but Sanlong, could you stop using this form? Once he said this, though it could have been an illusion, Huachong's figure seemed to have gone stiff. But really quickly he laughed a little bit again. Your Highness's form, do you think it looks bad? Shilian hastily waved his hands. Oh, of course I don't think it looks bad. It's just that I prefer. Who would have thought that while he was thinking over his wording, Huachong would disappear? Shilian was spooked, standing up quickly. Oh, so long! Why was even his shadow suddenly gone? But when he scrambled over to look, he discovered that Huachong hadn't disappeared, but he transformed. Where there originally sat a teenage Huachong, there was now a snow-white little face looking up at him. Shilian didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but his hand still couldn't help but gather the person up in his arms, pull on his two symmetrical pigtails, and say, San Long, what are you doing? Today you've spent all day transforming this way and that, from big to small, from small to tiny. Huachong dejectedly said, Gege, how about this form? Oh my god! Shilian said, what is this form? What on earth are you talking about? The tiny Huachong hid his face behind his shoulders and muttered, if this form's still no good, then I don't know what else to do. Shilian was confused a moment. Then he had a flash of insight and understood everything. So we have to, stupid. Huachong said, Your Highness, what did you say? Shilian stomped his feet. Oh, not you. I was talking about myself. How could I be this stupid? This time, it was Huachong who could understand Shilian. He blinked his eye and said, Oh, Your Highness, you... Shilian interrupted him. When I asked you if you could stop using this form earlier, I actually meant, could you let me see how you looked this morning again? Huachong's eye widened. He didn't know what Shilian had understood. That morning when Huachong was startled awake by him, his first reaction was to cover half his face. The half he covered had been his right. So that's what it was. At the time, Huachong wasn't hiding his face. He was actually hiding that missing right eye. From early on, when they had first settled at Pucci and the two of them had spent the night in the Pucci shrine, Huachong had said a few things to him, roughly meaning that he considered his original appearance to be very ugly. He had even said before that he felt a man's looks were very important. At the time, he more or less thought green-faced and long-toothed, ugly like a raksha, and so on. That kind of talk had been absurd and pretty funny, adding to that because of his later firm belief that Huachong had definitely understood how Shilian actually thought of him. He never revisited the matter. He had never expected that Huachong had still. Shilian coughed lightly. The way you looked this morning, I felt it was really... Anyway, hurry up and change back. Let me look at it again. The color of Huachong's face changed slightly, then instantly wrenched his head over. Well, that look was really inappropriate. How could I let Gege see it again? What's so inappropriate about it? How could you think that way? But Huachong was stubborn. There wasn't anything for it, so Shilian best say, then you can first change back into your teenage form. Is that okay? He put Huachong down, and the next moment there was a 16 or 17-year-old Huachong sitting there again. Shilian let out a sigh. Earlier today, you suddenly charged outside, changed into his skin, and while fighting, used these dazzling tricks to show off. All of that was so I could forget how you looked this morning? Huachong said nothing. His silence meant it was correct. Shilian was sure of it. No wonder. No wonder he dressed up his youthful appearance so exquisite today, just gorgeously dressed. No wonder he was vanquishing demons. He showed off his skill and talent, dazzling Shilian so hard that now he felt dizzy and disoriented. It was all because that morning, Shilian had accidentally seen his half-dreaming, half-awake appearance that bared his injured eye. Huachong wanted to make this impression leave Shilian's mind, using a perfect, magnificent, beautiful new impression to suppress it, because he didn't want Shilian to remember his most authentic appearance. The appearance of his missing eye, without any covering whatsoever. But who knew that Shilian wouldn't take much notice of his meticulously dressed up youthful appearance? And even he wished dearly that he could see that cloudy-haired, confused, absurd appearance from that morning. Huachong could only resort to his trump card, immediately turning into a young child. Shilian found it simultaneously heartbreaking and hilarious. You never needed to do this in the first place, San Long. What would even happen if I saw it? Huachong only spat one word out, ugly. Shilian could feel his headache coming. He could feel a headache coming on. He's like, oh God. He's like, ugly? What ugly? Have you ever looked into a mirror before? Forget it. The more he thought about it, the more anxious he felt, until he finally cracked. To tell you the truth, this morning when I was all dumb, it wasn't because of anything else. It was because seeing you like that was so good looking, it made me stupid. I was gawking. Admitting that you've been struck dumb because of an attractive beauty is a very difficult thing. When Shilian finished saying it, his entire face was so red and so ashamed that his many years of chaste cultivation had gone who knows where. But he still braced himself to continue speaking. It's just, I've never seen that kind of charming San Long before. And I want to see it more. On top of that, it's your original form. Your other forms, like this youthful skin, for example, they are really good looking. I like all of them too, but your original form, it's not the same to me because that's the truest you. I want to see how you look unguarded, how you look with nothing to do, and how you look when loafing around being lazy. As long as it's how you really look, I want to see all of it. Shillian didn't even know what he was saying anymore, just expelling all the words he was keeping inside in one burst of energy, catching in one hand and carelessly throwing out the other. And Wachong still hadn't said a single word. The knob of his throat bobbed. A long while passed before he said in a low voice, "That's such an inappropriate appearance." Shillian immediately raged. "What are you saying about yourself? What's so inappropriate?" His hair was loose and messy. He was badly dressed, and more importantly, his eye patch wasn't on. By Hwa-Chong's standards, this kind of look wasn't fit for anyone's eyes. Keeping that in mind, Shillian's voice softened, saying, "Speaking of, why are you thinking about how inappropriate or appropriate your appearance is again? If you insist on saying that without thinking, then does it mean that you... He held back his words for a while before forcing out, "Does it mean that there are things that you do that are meant to be appropriate?" Shillian's hand was still tightly pulling Hwa-Chong's sleeve, and he said quietly, "I honestly feel like your original appearance looks really good. How could you misunderstand this? What did I do to let you misunderstand this?" Hwa-Chong looked at him, drawing in a breath. The next moment, he said, "Your Highness!" Shillian patted his back and said, "Are you better?" He said in a low voice, "Your Highness, don't be upset. I was wrong making you worry." Shillian shook his head and replied in a low voice, "It was my fault, and I didn't realize that you felt this way sooner." Hwa-Chong said, "Your Highness will never do anything wrong." After a pause, he added, "What you just said just now, other than you, no one has ever said that to me before." Shillian felt that was inconceivable and said, "I don't believe it. How can that be? Does that mean that even when you were little, no one ever told you were cute before?" After becoming a ghost, no one would put any emphasis on the ghost's looks. After becoming a supreme, no one had the guts to make comments on how the looks of a supreme class ghost king were. But a small child would surely have a few people thoughtlessly praising him, surely. To be avoided by everyone as a child, even a mud-covered monkey would get called cute carelessly in the same 2-week span. Sure enough, after a long while, Hwa-Chong chuckled, there was someone. Shillian was relieved and laughed along. "I knew it!" He sincerely felt that person was a very good person and was thankful to him. Hwa-Chong leisurely added, "That person was you, Your Highness." "What?" Hwa-Chong released him and said in a hurt voice, "Your Highness, you don't remember. That year you kindly said to me, you said that with an eye as big as mine, I must really be cute. So you lied to me after all." For some reason, even though this didn't merit a blush, Shillian felt still like blushing, as if he wanted to deny something. He hurriedly pushed it at Hwa-Chong. "Oh, that was the truth. Where did I lie? It's just, it had been way too long." No matter how hard he tried to think, he could only grasp the blurry tail end of that memory. He remembered that child, but he could not remember the way he spoke to him, or perhaps he really was thoughtlessly just blurting stuff out. But now he regretted it. Why didn't he say more of this kind of talk? Why not say this kind of thing more sincerely or firmly? Hwa-Chong propped up one leg, rested his chin on one hand, and said with a smile, "I'm joking. Though at the time, I really did feel Your Highness was lying to me. Except for you, everyone would verbally abuse me, call me a hideous creature or a little goblin." Shillian's heart jumped in pain. He stopped pushing Hwa-Chong and pulled him in closer. They were speaking nonsense. You don't need to remember those kinds of words. Hwa-Chong laughed out loud. "True, I realized pretty quickly why the hell do I have to trust those people? Other than speaking nonsense, what else does worthless trash do? Obviously, Your Highness, what Your Highness says is the truth, and only you, Your Highness, speak truth in each and every word." Shillian was at a loss for words. Hwa-Chong smiled until his eyes nearly shut. "Really, even if Your Highness said that the sun only rose in the sky because of you, I would accept that. I would believe it." Shillian remained incredulous. Hwa-Chong said softly, "Your Highness has this kind of manner that gives people no way not to trust him." Shillian was speechless. This again! This again! Shillian also wanted to know exactly why. Why no matter what he started talking with Hwa-Chong about in the beginning, it would eventually end with him feeling so ashamed that he wanted to die. Shillian covered his face and retreated into the corner in a little ball and moaned, "Oh, San Long! Ah!" With his ears blushing red, he said, "I was sincerely trying to comfort you. Why are you being like this?" He clearly knew what he was most afraid of people reminding him of, the well-known saying he spouted as a famous, radiantly glorious person of the past. Huachong chased him and pressed comfortingly against him and said in a dead earnestness, I'm also being sincere. These two being like the biggest, like just love birds. Oh my God. Ugh. It was like he had grown 8 hands. Shilian couldn't push him away no matter how hard he pushed and had nothing to say back. He finally decided to give up as hopeless and carelessly as he said, okay, everything I said is true and you'll believe it, right? Huachong joyfully said, yep. Shilian stood up. So then, from what we've spent all day discussing, you'll also have trust that He grabbed Huachong's shoulder, looking him straight into both his eyes, and used his firmest tone to repeat his heartfelt wishes. Huachong grinned and closed his eyes. When he opened them, he only had one eye again. He wasn't using a disguise anymore. Several locks of hair fell loose, covering up the empty eye. A few degrees ferocious and coldly beautiful. Of course my dogs would be that way. Shilian gazed at Huachong's remaining eye. Guys! Hey! No! No, get back here. Shilian gazed at Huachong's remaining eye, then at the missing eye, and reached out his hand to move aside that lock of hair. Then, with a faint bow of his head, he surrendered. Recently, public figures of the three realms were trembling with fear. The reason they were so afraid, other than the supreme Crimson Rain-sought flower, what else could it be? Specifically, that's not to say the Crimson Rain-sought flower has been up to anything as of late. It's just recently, he keeps using the Ghost King look. Yet, it's a loose-haired, eye-patch-wearing skin. Speaking of this Crimson Rain-sought flower, before, he would change skins often. Almost every time he appeared, he would be in a new skin. No matter what skin, he would seem unsatisfied, and seemed especially to like the new and tire of the old. But lately, he regularly uses the Ghost King look. What? What does this have to do with everyone being terrified, you ask? When he uses this skin, it's when he's most enjoying being out of his mind. Whenever he abused the civic gods, beat up the martial gods, burned the temple of those 33 officials, this was the form that he took to enact those fits of violence. Lately, every time Crimson Rain and His Highness are seen together, he's using this skin, and he looks especially vibrant, especially happy. Could it be that another person is about to suffer? Aye, ladies and gentlemen, every one of the three realms, by the looks of it, another storm of rumors about the blood rain is about to strike. Facing all sorts of rumors, and then looking back at the Huachong beside him, stomping on the heads of 9 demonic beasts, radiant with happiness, Shilian only had one thing to say. Why does everyone have to make something so simple out to be so complicated? They just can't acknowledge the simple fact. Crimson Rain-sought flower's original form is truly so beautiful that from heaven to earth and all the three realms, he is number one. Oh my God. Oh, yes, please. Yes, please. Oh, yes, of course. I love this. I love the idea of Huachong in this form, just showing off. Like, Huachong always considers himself ugly because of, his upbringing and how he was, and then tearing out an eye. Like, Huachong always wants to appear perfect for Shilian because Shilian to him is perfect. So he's like, in order for me to be good enough for you, I can't seem unsightly. So he always dresses so extravagantly and everything. And Shilian's like, look, if you're just yourself, that's the best form for me. And so him showing like his eye that's gone, showing like his hair all undone, and like looking like a feral ghost king. That's so sweet, right? I'll be honest, I was expecting the final chapter to be spicy. But MXTX is like, no. Shilian and Huachong are fluffy. They're fluffy goodness. They are, I feel like if you want kinkery, you go with Wengshen. They're your spiciness. Not to say that Hualien cannot be, but Hualien is all about like emotional therapy and healing each other and finding each other like being beautiful. And it's wonderful, right? Of course it is. So, I love it so much. I love it so much. Yes. That was wonderful. So thank you, Reiki. I will have a link down below to the Twitter post that has the link so you all can read that final extra chapter 2. All of the other extra materials, I will be working on looking at the edits to the novel as I go through the audio drama, as I get time to do that. And we'll just see where that goes. So, yay. But oh my God, y'all, my dogs are hungry. They want to go out. They're being crazy. So I'm going to tend to them. But y'all, thank you so much for joining me on this journey with Heaven Official's Blessing. I can't believe that the main story, now I can do stuff with all these extra materials. The main story is done. We still have the Donghua as it comes. We still have the audio dramas, and we still have the live action eventually. So our journey with Heaven Official's Blessing is not over. However, I will be looking at some audio dramas, hopefully, in gearing up for starting Scum Villain self-saving system. So we'll just have to wait and see, won't we? But in any case, I cannot thank you all enough for joining me on this journey. I hope you all enjoyed this reaction and discussion. I cannot wait to hear your comments down below. But I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back next week with some more, while we wait for Scum Villain, of Heaven Official's Blessing. Bye, y'all. Peace.